Backstage, folks.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
Hey.
Can you hear me loud and clear? Good.
There we go. Hey, everybody. So again, we're live. It's a pre-show. Just want to make sure nobody says anything that they don't want people to hear. We are live. And
good thing you said that, because I was about to unload on Phil.
I know.
I just got the word that Ken Cobra is going to join us at about 1:15.
Oh, that's sooner than
1:15, huh?
Yep. So he'll join us a little earlier.
This should be interesting.
Yeah, should be. I'm still here, but I'm going to take my vid off.
What's up, brother Kevin?
What's up, brother Dre? How you been doing, man? Congratulations. I saw your post about the work you doing. You know what I'm saying? Touching young minds and all that good stuff.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Just that's why I had to quiet down a few social medias just to concentrate on some other activities. So it's a lot more to come too. So the quiet before the storm.
Okay, that's what's up.
Appreciate you.
I always try to keep an eye out for the positive. You know, Lord knows we catch enough of the negative. I'll be looking for them things that, give you a little hope.
Well, the positive has arrived. I'm here.
I said hope, Phil.
Oh, hope. I'm sorry. I didn't understand. I misunderstood. Sorry.
That's funny.
Phil, forgive me if you said this already, but did you wind up doing the Conroy thing, or did that get killed, or what happened with that?
Oh no, we did it. I thought it'd be better, particularly with the war going on, everybody focused to post it before the primary.
Oh, okay.
And frankly, I was gonna, when it's posted, I was gonna send you the link and everybody, because maybe it's something that the newspaper, I don't know, might be interested in, but it was an interesting experience.
Can you remind me, that's the guy running on the Republican side for Congress?
He's the designated guy they got to run against Landsman. I think there's a ton of outside money already I'm getting all these mailers on him because I'm a Republican. I'm in the district. Yeah, I think there's a lot of money. And apparently that district is now almost leans Republican. It had been a relatively strong Democrat district, but, they made some deal up at the state, where they gerrymandered it around. Mm-hmm. So it's now a very close district.
Do you mean all your protest votes haven't stacked up yet to make you a Dem?
Protest votes. She's starting to sound like Kevin Gordon. I get enough of that from him and Terrace.
Hey, listen, I learned something this week about the designation of party. I don't know if anybody cares about this stuff, but you know how the Board of Elections will say whether you're a Democrat or Republican?
Based on where you voted in the last primary.
Exactly. Well, I learned something. There was all these unaffiliated. Well, let me say this. I had a voter list, and some of the people, even though they voted Dem or Republican in a primary, they were listed as unaffiliated. And I was curious about this. Like, how is this possible? Well, I learned that if you don't vote for a couple cycles, that party designation falls off according to the Board of Elections, and you go back to being an unaffiliated, even if you voted D or R in the past.
Okay, but how many years after how many years?
2 cycles.
So what's the problem with that?
I know. I just thought it was interesting. I just assumed that
I didn't know. Yeah.
Once you vote one way with a party, you're always that way, and it's just not true. Ohio dumps that off of you after a while, and you go back to this pool of unaffiliated voters. Kind of interesting. Hey, Kevin, I'm reading your op-ed you just published about, well, I don't know if you call it. Yeah, it's an opinion piece you published about the mayor being on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I like your line where it says, even though it's not his fault, it is his problem. Something like that.
Thank you. Yeah, that one was. I told Nathan that one was for him because he's always. I call him an AFTAB apologist. That's what I
Yeah,
call
right.
Nathan, jokingly. But on this one, I think they're beating up on him maybe a little bit too much. Although he does need to plan his vacations a little bit better, I think.
Yeah.
Around major city events.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we talk about that again for sure. Definitely. You guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and well, I'm gonna wait a little bit, see if we can get. Did you? Ken has the link. Kevin, is that true?
Yeah, I texted it to him, so he has it. So I'm keeping my eye on my phone in case he has any
questions or anything?
difficulties and text me about it. So
Yeah, we had a little bit of something. Then he figured it out. So
right.
I'm
I mean,
anxious
at worst, I'll tell him that if he's having a trouble with that link, maybe I'll just tell him to go on the YouTube channel, to join the channel and try to join via the link you post.
Okay.
If we can get that figured out.
Yep. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that now.
No terrorists today?
He got tired of being constantly interrupted.
No tears today. Steph
I
writes.
think Friday is usually a busy day for him at the barbershop.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hey, what's up, Ken?
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing well, bro.
Good.
Ken, thanks for being on today. I appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for being flexible. I got my schedule is ever changing, so I appreciate the flexibility.
I get it.
All right, we are
this
good.
actually works better for us because we can get you in off the top.
Good.
All right, I'm gonna put everybody backstage and we'll start the show. There'll be a 2-minute countdown and then we'll go live. There it is. Welcome back, everybody. I think we got everybody except for Ken. Got Ken with us. There he is. What's up? We're back. Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for tapping in. We appreciate it. You could be anywhere in the World Wide Web, but you're checking in with us. And again, appreciate you. We're going to jump straight into it. We got Ken Colbert with us. He's the president of the FOP, Fraternal Order of Police here in Cincinnati. Ken, thank you for making time today. I really appreciate it again.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Happy Good Friday to everybody.
Yeah, happy Good Friday. Absolutely. Let's jump. I mean, the biggest local news is the report on the Cincinnati police chief has been released. This is a general question to get things started, but Ken, we're going to come straight to you. Who looks bad here, the city or the police chief? And Ken, since you are a Cincinnati police officer, you represent the FOP, I want to get your thoughts and your reaction about this report.
Yeah, I think it showed exactly what everybody predicted and what I don't understand how it took 6 months for them to compile a bunch of opinions. And really the list of officers that were interviewed was only in the neighborhood of 25. I think this day and age, as a police chief, you're going to find people that support you. You're going to find people that don't. So I think it's very easy to find 25 people that didn't like Chief Thigi. So, that's who they interviewed and that's what they went with.
Ken, what is the complement? What is the complement of the rank and file in the Cincinnati so that people have an idea of 25 officers interviewed out of a complement of how many?
We should have 1,058. Currently, we have about 960 roughly. So yeah, when you're looking at the grand scheme of things, interviewing 25 people out of 1,058, I don't know that you really get a really clear picture of whether she was supported or not. I mean, you could have gotten 25 people that support her, interviewed them. They would have said absolutely all of them wonderful things. And, but that certainly was not going to fit the narrative of what they were looking for.
So
to
Ken,
your
why
knowledge,
didn't they open it up to the entire FOP floor to do a vote to see if there was any confidence in Chief Thigi, which is usually shown for a chief, that it was overwhelmingly, when I was on the job, that my colleagues and coworkers clearly said they didn't want no parts of Thigi when Councilman Johnson and also the city manager was going from district to district, getting ideas. Even former President Dan Hills was very, very vocal that Chief Thigi should not be the chief. And it was not because nobody didn't like her. We just knew that she was not the one for the leadership position. And overwhelmingly, Lisa Davis was the one that selected. So people who
for what reasons, Drake? Can you explain why that?
But what's interesting is a lot of the reasons that's already in here. They should have released it early.
From your point of view, the police officer's point of view is what I'm asking, not the report.
Oh, it's echoes. I mean, there was strong retaliation that people were afraid of. It was a horrible communication. She has a history of nepotism and going to go directly towards officers. And so when people try to say it was because she a woman, that's wrong, because everybody wanted Lisa Davis. So when do you
tell us about Lisa Davis? Because I'm not going to interrupt you, but
well, we know Phil, that's what you do is interrupt. But look, Lisa Davis was a great leader. She was very, very personable. She understood community relations, and she was very approachable. And so people clearly said that they wanted to have Lisa Davis in that running and not Thigi. And the city manager and Scotty Johnson, they completely ignored the advice. And Ken Colbert can vouch to that. I know.
Was she an assistant chief? What was her rank, Lisa Davis?
Yeah, she was assistant chief.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Brother Jay, to your point, and this was certainly a point of contention when all this was going on, is we were urging President Hills just to stay neutral. Because when in the history of the police department and the FOP has the city ever said, you know what, this is what cops want, this is what we're going to do, or this is what the FOP wants, this is what we're going to do. So I think that certainly hamstringed this entire process because they weren't going to go based off of what the FOP's wishes were.
Well, not just the wishes. They should have opened it up to the entire body and did the no confidence or did the vote period. And we wouldn't be sitting here today discussing it. Everybody know, neutral or not, it was a bad decision. And here it is, the city of York dealing with it and paying for it.
Hey, Ken, did you get advance notification about the report, or did you find out when everybody else?
No, I got a copy of the report actually from Fox 19. So yeah, I was not made aware. And a matter of fact, and I've been very upfront about this, is I was one of the people that interviewed and was asked to interview, and I did. And to me, the entire process lacked transparency. We were forbidden from recording it. The attorney said, "We're not recording it. We're only going to take notes." Well, that doesn't make any sense to me. You know, if we're going to be transparent, yes, cops to wear body cameras, have in-car cameras, all of these things to be transparent, which I agree with. Why would we not do something that's going to potentially cost the taxpayers the amount of money that it could cost them? Why would we not want a transparent investigation?
Can I ask a question, Ken? I was sort of impressed by the op-ed piece. I think his name is Dennis Doyle, one of your kind of opinion people. Kevin, is that his name?
Yes.
All right. I mean, what he said, it wasn't so much whether she's a good chief or not, but that this report had no specifics. It had no specific incidents. Now, I understand that you don't want to use people's names, but I mean, I thought that was a pretty good point. I mean, if she has such bad communication skills, maybe she does. Why not give us some specifics? You leave out the names of the people she spoke to. If she's retaliating, give us some examples. Okay, it was all general. It was all general conclusions. How about quote some police officers who say that she practices nepotism or whatever it is? There was none of that. It was like just all these conclusions, and to me, that's not a very effective report.
Hey, Ken, I got two questions for you. And you know, you're a straight shooter. We all know that, whether people like what you got to say or not. So I don't anticipate you answering this in any other way other than just straight. But so give me your personal view and then the feelings from what you're hearing inside the FOP. Why is this happening to Police Chief Thigi, in your personal opinion, and also what are you hearing?
I think what everybody believes was, and it's already been out there, is you do this a couple weeks before an election. They believe that this was all politically motivated, that because of the events that happened over the summer leading into the fall, the spike in violence, that we believe that City Hall believed that there could be a potential that voters could vote a different way if some drastic action wasn't taken. And that's certainly my opinion, and I know it's the opinion of many other officers, is that the timing was certainly very, very poor.
So, Ken, let me follow up on that. And again, just from your perspective, I mean, Brother Dre has clearly put out there his thoughts about Chief Thigi. I mean, what is your opinion of the job that she was doing? So I think there are a couple of different conversations here. There's the question of, is she being scapegoated, or is there actually some merit to some of the criticisms of her leadership there within the police department? One doesn't necessarily mean that she needs to be fired. Maybe she needed to be put on some kind of performance program or have some type of evaluation that gave her an opportunity to improve, which she says didn't take place. So do you see a separation there? And just what are your general overall thoughts about her leadership compared to what was in the report?
I could tell you that, you know, a lot of this stuff that happened last summer, and, you know, ordering officers to, you know, patrol certain areas on foot, and they were ordering them to do that based off of overtime when they weren't having problems in those specific areas. I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around about how things happen. I mean, I had plenty of conversations with Chief Thigi, and, you know, she kept on reiterating that, look, City Hall's telling me to do this. They're telling me to do this. If I don't do this, I'll be fired. I will tell you, one of the things that was extremely interesting is the last interview that she did before they called her back when she was out of town, and said that we're going to start enforcing low-level offenses. We're going to get back to, you know, the quality of life issues, because we know that leads to bigger things. And that was one of the last things that she said. And then a couple of days later, she's told to come back from out of town.
Was she in favor of that, Ken, the so-called broken windows theory, or was she opposed to that?
No, she said we need to get back to this. We need to start, you know, these low-level offenses are why we're having the bigger problems.
Which is what led to the success.
I think she's right.
When whatever you think of him now, why Giuliani and the other guy were, I forget the chief's name, were very successful in New York, was just because of that kind of policing, right?
Yeah, but you look at it in 2026, it's not just going to every street corner shaking people down. You have to have targeted enforcement where you know that there are people carrying guns, there are people robbing people, there are people shooting each other. And those are the people you need to be targeting, not somebody that's just standing on the corner, minding their own business. And I think that's where a lot of the pushback is, look, we don't want to go back to where we were 25 years ago. And I completely agree. We shouldn't. Policing is completely different now than it was 25 years ago. We've found ways to be smarter, use more technology. But the reality is, the longer that we just lay off of the quality of life issues, the more problems that we're going to have. We've seen it.
Hey, Ken, I'm sorry, Michelle, go right ahead.
No, I mean, I just had a kind of question not related to what we've been saying, and that is just about, because I work in a labor union, and I'm just curious. I think some of the discussion has been about the oversized role of City Hall and City Council versus the management of the city manager over the police chief in general, and how you don't want these roles politicized. I think that's been the main critique, right? That it was an election season, it was politicized, she was scapegoated. So what's kind of the solution from the FOP standpoint in terms of how the police chief is hired or fired or managed that could depoliticize this role more? What would you say to that? I mean,
well, let's look at issue 5.
Right.
I mean, that it passed 20 some years ago.
Right.
And the end result of that is now, what have we seen since issue 5 has taken place? As police chiefs and now even fire chiefs, look at Chief Washington from the fire department dealing with the same thing. He doesn't get fired, nor do we end up in this situation if they're covered by collective bargaining.
Right.
That's just a reality. We have a process, but we don't. So there is an ability for those positions to be politicized, and that's what we've seen from both sides. I think the city is going to be looking at a huge payout for Chief Washington, and if they go down the same road with Chief Thiegy, they're going to be looking at the same thing again. I'm not necessarily suggesting we go back to 25 years ago where the chiefs they were completely under the collective bargaining agreement and they could say and do what they want. But I do think that they need more assurances that they can work independent of City Hall and that they shouldn't be in fear of losing their job or being put on administrative leave for making one decision or maybe even multiple decisions. Who knows that politicians don't like, and I fear that this is only going to continue. I mean, even look at Chief Henney now. He's the interim. Right now he's covered under a collective bargaining agreement. So he can essentially run the department the way he sees fit. And they can't fire him.
Right.
They would have to do that through the collective bargaining process. So there's some respects where he's protected to go and say and do the things that he thinks is best for this department. And, if he gets selected, or whoever comes after Chief Thiegy is likely going to fall under the same thing, which is it's a political position. And if you don't do and say the things we want you to, we'll get rid of you as well.
Yeah.
But isn't it fair, though? Let's be fair here, though, Ken. It's a political position, period. I mean, issue 5 isn't making it any more political than the very nature of it.
But it did, absolutely. Because
so?
prior to issue 5, when you had police chiefs that were under our collective bargaining agreement, they could say and do what they thought was best for the department. As long as they weren't violating manual rules and regulations, they weren't violating procedures, there's essentially nothing that City Hall could do to them. And I think if we went back to that, I think City Hall may be even more careful in who they choose to be in that position, knowing that, hey, we got to trust this person 100% because they're covered under collective bargaining laws, and we can't just get rid of them because they say something we don't like or they do something we don't like.
Right.
Yeah, that takes control away from City Hall and also control away from the people.
Well, it puts
Right,
it in the control of the management structure, though. I mean, it's not like they can do anything they want. They still have to, do their job description. That the city manager would be the one who could hire and fire them. Is that correct?
So here's the thought too, to insulate the police chief and the fire chief from City Hall would be looking at bringing back a safety director. You have a safety director they're
Who
the
would appoint
buffer.
the
The
safety
safety director. What's that?
Who would appoint the safety director?
I mean, that they
The
can
city-
structure however they want. That could be
It's
the
just
It'd
city
be the
council
city
appoints them.
manager. It'd be the city manager.
Yeah.
It'd be city so it's still going to be politicized. I mean, the nature of these jobs is political in nature. But what I like about issue 5 is a couple things, and I'm in no way am I saying I'm an expert. But one, I like the fact that we can look at people outside of Cincinnati. And 2, I like the fact that you have city manager control. That means you have mayor control. that means on some levels, you've got more control from citizens who vote.
I'll be honest with you. I think having one person determine the fate of a police chief or fire chief is just bad. Whether we structure this to, the vast majority of council votes to remove a police chief or fire chief, then to your point, Kevin, is then the voters do have a voice because they have people that they've elected to represent them. But to have a police chief or fire chief whose, sole fate is going to lie in one person, I think is dangerous. And we're seeing the effects of it. And to your point, going outside the department, sometimes it's good. I mean, you look at when James Craig came here after Chief Stryker left in like 2010, 2011. I mean, James Craig was an absolute rock star. A lot of people liked him. There were some people that didn't. I'll tell you right now, I was a huge fan of his. I thought he did a lot of good things for the police department in the short time that he was here. The unfortunate part is City Hall didn't like him. So after 2 years, they went, "You're out of here. We don't need you here anymore. We're going to find somebody else who we think we can control more."
So it's fair to say that Thigi knew that to take the position, she would have to be under control, and
Absolutely.
Craig would not submit to the function of the process, and so he moved on to bigger and better plans because he would not be the puppet. And those are things too. Thigi knew exactly what she was getting into through the process. I was very vocal on stating she sold her soul, and don't act like you don't know. And she's not completely innocent in this entire journey. And I think that's what's frustrating. Chief Blackwell got asked, did he get this kind of support? No, he did not. No one was coming to his aid. People weren't saying, "Oh my goodness, it's a political move." They organized and orchestrated and got Blackwell up out of here. So what's the difference between, oh, we support Chief Thigi, which has come out extremely vocal from the FOP, and the mayor's the puppet master. Blackwell doesn't get any support. And even though Captain Danita Pettis did get her job back, it was still not this same type of support. So it's very interesting how this process is being ran to give all this support to Thigi. And you see that the whole system is now breaking down because even on Signal 99's page, she's going after now Henny. She's going after other assistant chiefs. So the whole department is just falling apart, about to implode on each other because they never expected this. So somebody better get a hold of how this system is running because Ken, I'm gonna tell you, it's collapsing.
Oh, there's no doubt. There are a lot of problems that need to be fixed very, very quickly. You're absolutely right.
So, Brother Jay, when you say it's collapsing, like, what does that mean?
It's now the infrastructure is attacking each other. Resources told me that former Captain Neville, Thigi's brother, he made comments about Henny. I just made the reference to certain people in leadership that Henny came in, removed certain people that he wanted in place, and basically what they do is take down somebody else's reign, and now it's all of a sudden a big problem. This has been going on with the department for years. A chief goes in, restructures the whole thing, but now you see that there's the difference, in which is deep, is that it's public. It's going to turn into a political frenzy, and then now you got a white leadership going against white leadership. And that's why I say when you have something like that, the whole process is about to collapse.
Any other thoughts?
No, he's right. There's a lot that needs to be fixed really, really quickly because we are definitely moving in the wrong direction. And that is extremely troubling, especially going into what's going to be probably a long, hot summer.
When you say we're moving in the wrong direction, like in what way? Because from what I'm told is like crime statistics, they say is we're moving in the right direction. So in what way, in your opinion, Ken, are we moving in the wrong direction?
Well, I think there needs to be finality sooner than later. Sorry. The police department, the men and women of this department need to know who's going to be in charge going into this summer. Whether they fire Thigi, they work a deal out, whatever that is, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, how you feel about what decision City Hall makes, they need to make a decision and they need to make it now. We need to know who our leaders are going to be, and the leaders need to know who they're going to be. Are they going to be the ones that are going to take this police department through this summer? We don't need to have this chaos in the background because it's a detriment to everybody, including the taxpayers. I mean, just look at what the taxpayers are on the hook for so far. 6 months of her being on administrative leave. Approximately $20,000 a month is what they've been paying her. I mean, that's what her contract says. So 6 months, you're at $120,000. They give $50,000 to a law firm. You're at $170,000 of taxpayer dollars. And what do you have to show for it other than a 9-page report that says witness believes this, witness believes that?
Right.
That's what I really am aggravated, that they're spending taxpayer dollars for a 9-page report that I probably could have done in AI.
And aren't
And
they, sorry, and are they doing that to protect themselves against a lawsuit from her? I mean, like, was really the motive of this report and get lawyering up to prepare themselves against her coming back with, her own lawsuit against the city for being removed?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt that this quote unquote, and I use quotes, independent investigation was done for them to be able to then turn around and say, oh,
Yes.
hey, I got this 9-page document that says she's not effective. And that's what we're going to use to terminate her.
Right.
And that's what the city's going to hide behind. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing I will say is there are a fair amount of people that are not fans of Chief DG that came out and said, hey, look, this whole process, they're treating her wrong. If
Right.
they wanted her gone, they should have brought facts. They should have brought them quickly and said, here's why. And we could have dealt with this mess 6 months ago. Unfortunately, it's been drug along. And I said it's the taxpayers and the men and women that do this job are the ones that are suffering the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask this question.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I was just gonna ask Ken a question and also make a statement. I was gonna say, as far as if the city is looking at this report as some type of legal defense or something to insulate it from a lawsuit from DG, I think it's a pretty thin level of defense. I mean, in looking at this thing, I'm like, it's not a matter of if they're going to pay DG, it's a matter of how much she's going to get from the city. Which kind of leads me into my question. Ken, after all of this, do you think that she can come back? Because I kind of look at this as like when John Cranley and Harry Black were having their back and forth and their nuclear battle a few years ago when he was the city manager and Cranley was the mayor. It's like at a certain point things get so toxic, so destructive. It's like, could DG even come back and work and be effective? Could she work with the city manager? How would she be looked at by the rank and file officers? Could they trust that process after all of this? I mean, is it safe to say that rightly or wrongly, she's probably done as the chief here in Cincinnati?
I think that's an extremely fair assessment. I mean, how you put somebody that has been on leave for 6 months, and is highly publicized, as highly polarizing as this has been. How do you bring her back and say, okay, finish leading the police department? I don't know that that's fair to the rank and file. I don't think it's fair to the chief. I certainly don't see how there's a scenario where they go back and they just act like none of this happened and they start working together. I just don't see it happening.
Well, the conclusion from the report, which people can see on the screen here now, is that she was not an effective leader. And but I share a lot of what I'm hearing. I didn't read verbatim every word, but I read the lion's share of it, a good 80% of it word for word. And it leaves me with a lot of questions, but it also leads me back to what I thought about at the very beginning, which is, how the employment game works. When they want you to go, they want you to go. Yabba dabba do, it's on you. You got to go today. And that's just how it is. They'll make up any old reason. I'm not suggesting that's what I feel like is happening with the city right now, but I am suggesting that I'm not surprised by how light this report is, in my opinion. And it leads me back to something else. I just feel like there might be information that is not in the report that we don't know about that is maybe driving these decisions. And I don't know if we'll ever get to the real bottom of what it really is, but it just feels like there's still more there that we're just not aware of.
Mm-hmm. No, and there could be. I mean, even when I read the report, there were accusations in there that I certainly wasn't aware of. And understand, I'm not a command staff officer, so I know there's stuff that I'm not privy to. But some of the accusations of blocking the city manager or and the assistant city manager from even speaking to command staff. If those things happen, the question is, why wasn't it addressed immediately? Because it should have been. If that's a problem, it should have been addressed immediately instead of waiting until now, 6 months after administrative leave and saying, oh, yeah, well, this was a problem at this time.
I think that's absolutely fair. And I think if we're in that position, We want to be told about it. And everybody in employment, anybody in leadership knows this. You know, if you're trying to do, job action, you don't let issues pile up and then fire somebody. I mean, you can do that. I mean, if you're going to be fair and you're trying to get the best out of your employee, you deal with the issues as they happen. You document it, right? The documentation is super important. It might lead to a performance enhancement plan or something like that. But I think the last thing you want to do if you want to be fair is let things pile up and just let somebody go. And then say, hey, we had all these issues that we never really told you about.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, officers get a evaluation. They're supposed to get one every year. Because how do you know how to improve on something, your performance, if you're not aware that you're deficient or that your supervisors at least see that you're deficient in some area? And, so it's, I saw that, she hadn't had a performance evaluation in 7 years. Well, how can you improve from something? And how, if you haven't documented anything,
from what I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I read was she didn't have a formal evaluation. So it sounds like they may have had a series of informal meetings and things like that. Yeah. It sounds like maybe there wasn't a lot of documentation involved, but
right. And that's the problem that the city has. I mean, to me, that was one of the more damning things that was a part of the report that wasn't in the city's favor. I mean, there's a saying that says documentation beats conversation any day of the week. And you cannot go into court talking about we had these informal conversations and discussions, but nothing is documented. That's a loser all day, every day. I don't care whether you're in front of an arbitrator or in front of a judge. From an employment standpoint, you have to have some written formal documentation, and also sort of show some effort that you've given people an opportunity to respond to that. And from what I read in the report, it was kind of like a he said, she said. Chief Thigi said she hadn't had a review in 7 years. I think the city manager and some of the witnesses claimed that they had talked to her about some of these things and given her feedback, whatever that means. If there's nothing in her jacket, if there's nothing documented performance-wise, I don't know that the city has much of a leg to stand on, particularly, and I think that's a damning thing for the city manager if that's in fact true, that she had no formal performance evaluation for 7 years. That's unconscionable, in my opinion.
Hey, Ken, before you roll, and I appreciate your time, we've been having this ongoing conversation about the role of the mayor doing like these big events. As Kevin wrote, he said there's a couple of events that are kind of like, front porch events. And I agree with, you have the Taste, the Music Fest, and of course, opening day. There's been a lot of conversation about the mayor not being in the city. From your perspective, what do you think about this? Should the mayor be in the city for these events? Does it not matter? What do you think?
Listen, I'll say this, I get that the mayor's a father, he has kids, he has family obligations. I can appreciate all of that. I really do. But when you have these large scale events, you really should be in town, especially when you know that there's something that could happen. I mean, it would almost be, I certainly am not going to compare my job to what the mayor does. His job's much, much more difficult, bigger scale than I'll ever be. But it would almost be like me going, hey, well, I know our police memorial's up in May, but I'm going to go on vacation. Somebody else can take care of our police memorial. I don't think it's a good look for him. But that's ultimately a decision that he has to make. But I think the vast majority of people would prefer when you have these large scale events that the mayor's there. I think it was a shock. I mean, the questions were, when was the last time that we didn't have a mayor that walked in an opening day parade? I mean, that's a kickoff to, the first baseball team in history, kind of, the unofficial beginning of spring. So it certainly was disappointing that we didn't have the leader of the city here.
For sure.
You know what? You let me down, Ken.
I
disagree completely.
Listen, at the end of the day, the mayor and I we can disagree, we can not disagree, we can agree or we can disagree on items, but he's still a man, he's still a person, and he still has a family. And I'm not going to be one that's going to criticize somebody, too much, about being there for their family.
I said too much.
That's, yeah, that's where the root of problems started with families. And if he's not there for his kids, that's when we all know that things can be bad. So I do appreciate that he's looking out for his family. I think the timing was bad, and we certainly wish that he would have been here.
Any other questions for Ken?
Yeah, you know I got something, brother Ivy. The bottom line is this: there was a no confidence vote from the FOP for the mayor. So clearly, stating to stay neutral when it comes to certain politics have been vocal. I mean, they did no confidence on Scotty Johnson, and as well. So the FOP has been vocal. The question is,
hold on, Brother Jay, hold on. When did they do a vote of no confidence with Scotty Johnson?
this past year. This past
You
year.
sure about that? I know they didn't endorse him.
Well, they didn't endorse him.
Yeah, there was no
correct.
endorsement, but yeah, and that was ironically enough, as the committee voted to endorse Scotty Johnson and the floor decided not to. But to your point, anyway, I'll let you go.
Right. So the question is, if the mayor gets a no confidence vote, why doesn't the city manager get a no confidence vote as well? So we wanted to pin it all on the mayor, but then the city manager was not involved at all. And it's been very, very clear. She is the one that makes the sole decision on hiring and firing. So we can play the puppet master presentation, but if the city manager clearly makes that decision, why was not there any no confidence vote presented on her?
There was, and it got voted down.
Well, it got voted down. It didn't even make it to the floor because I was there at that meeting. They completely said, no, we're not doing it. Because why? Because she was the selection for the chief. And if you vote no confidence on city manager, then it trickles down to the chief. So this whole thing stinks in politics. And I think if everybody just says, okay, let me just stay in my corner, don't make no comments and let the system play its course, then I think positive things will happen. But I agree moving forward that the community should have a stake in voting for who the chief needs to be. I think that is very, very important to have the community actually have votes, not just opinions, but to make votes that will be part of this particular process. And I think this will calm a lot of issues down when the community gets more involved.
But don't they already, brother, not directly, but indirectly, we vote on the mayor, and the mayor chooses the city manager or selects, ratified by city council, right? So indirectly we do. But you're saying you wanted to be directly for the chief.
Correct. Directly for the chief. I mean, the mayor situation, it is what it is. He won. Okay. So at the end of the day, people may not like it, but he does have the power to select the city manager. But the city manager and the council gave her a glowing review. Everybody here knows if DG is failing, then the city manager should be failing. I mean, you just can't have it both ways in the process of glowing reviews. And then Thigi is terrible when she was your direct selection and you had nothing to say for years. So in that aspect, yeah, all of it is just tacky, and they need to redirect the system.
Here, I disagree with you a little bit, Brother Dre, in terms of sort of like the community having say over the chief. Not that they shouldn't have input, but I think, like allowing the community to vote. I mean, look, I think to a certain level, you got to have people who are somewhat knowledgeable, who are experts on policing, kind of looking at making these decisions. I mean, the average Cincinnatian has probably little to no understanding of what it takes to actually be a chief, the qualifications, those sorts of things. And I think you have a lot of people making sort of uninformed, emotional decisions. I just don't think that that's necessarily a good idea. Again, I'm not saying that there should be input and the community shouldn't have input. But I think when it comes to the selection of that type of individual, I think you need to have people who are, and I would be more in favor of those who are actually in law enforcement having more of a say over who the police chief is than an average citizen. I mean, I would take the expertise of a cop, over, somebody down the block that I wouldn't know. At least they know what it takes to be in a command situation and to police a community and do those sorts of things. So again, don't mistake input from as not being a part of that process. But I think if you open it up and say, hey, let's let all of Cincinnati vote on who the next police chief is, I think that makes things worse and even more political than what we already have.
I agree with that.
Do you know who Chief Thigi's mentor was or mentor is? Do you have any idea? Okay, I'm gonna throw this name out for listeners that know this name. Thomas Stryker. Okay, she has publicly said that Thomas Stryker is her mentor. Okay, so when you see a lot of decisions happening behind doors, those are things that are serious that people need to pay attention to.
What's the point, brother?
The point is that
Stryker?
This city went through a lot of the issues it went through under the command of Chief Stryker. Tim Thomas issues happened under Stryker. The collaborative agreement was born out of Chief Stryker's reign. So when you have people stating that this is my mentor, we need to check the whole process. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Does the FOP have what is the role of the FOP in selecting a chief? I just don't know. Like, is there a role?
I can tell you that, you know, as long as I've been in charge, we've had no role in it.
Okay.
I mean it's ultimately a decision that the city makes, not the FOP.
Okay.
Is there
And
any
with that-
consultation or anything like that?
We'll see in this process. I don't know. Like I said, you know, Chief Thigi was already here. You know, me having been a relatively new FOP president, I'll be interested to see how this process works moving forward after we see what they do with Chief Thigi.
Didn't you guys don't you get involved in the interview process though, Ken? When there's a new an interview for a chief?
I'm not aware of it, like I said, because I haven't been in this leadership role. So I will be looking forward to see. But I mean, ultimately, decisions made by City Hall, and I think it's actually better that way. I mean, I could tell you the way that I see things moving forward. At least my position from the FOP, assuming that it's internal candidates, is we want an internal candidate. We want somebody that's been here, that understands how the police department works. But that process is yet to be seen.
Yeah. And I get that and respect it. I mean, if I was a police officer, I want an internal candidate too, right? We always want internal candidates, but stepping away from that as a citizen, I like the idea of looking at people who are not from Cincinnati as well. I know you may not share that, but as a citizen, from a citizen's lens, I like that. Even if they end up getting somebody from and choosing somebody from within the command staff here in Cincinnati, okay, great. But I just like the idea of competing and interviewing people from different cities to lead the police chief. I mean, to lead the police force here in Cincinnati from my personal citizen lens.
I don't disagree with you. Like I said, James Craig was the breath of fresh air that everybody needed and wanted at the time.
Right.
And he came from another department. So I think that there is value in that, but I think you need to look at it as a whole, to your point, and see who's best. And if it's an internal candidate, which is certainly who we would prefer, great. But that doesn't mean that there's talent outside of the city that could be equal or even better. And that's something that I think that process certainly should demand.
Yeah. I mean, if you work at any organization, you know, internal candidates are going to be very strong. You know, they know the people, they know the internal mechanisms, the systems, the environment, you know, the major players, all that kind of stuff. But depending on what the role is, having somebody from outside of that could be very valuable from a citizen standpoint. So,
Sure. Yep.
Hey, Ken, listen, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch, man.
Sure. Thank you all for having me. Like I said, hope everybody has a safe and healthy Easter weekend. Thanks again.
Yep, same to you.
Take care.
It's Ken Cobra, everybody, FOP president. Appreciate him coming on, sharing his thoughts. Kind of let me down there because, you know, I have to revamp my role as the apologist for AFTAB and defend him. I just
I do think they're beating up on him a little bit too much. I mean, it's like, I get it. And I even said it in my piece, like there are certain events that I think if the mayor were smart, if he can help it, you know, plan around those sorts of things so you can be here for the major events. But I don't know. I mean, maybe this was the only time his wife could get off. I mean, it was spring break, you know, I don't know how old his kids are. Maybe this was the only time that he and his family had available to get away. I don't know. We don't know the details of that. He hasn't said. But certainly, I think that look, from my perspective, and I said it, it's all for show. It's all cosmetic. Like the mayor being here, it's more of like a cheerleading role at these events, right? It's to say, hey, this is our representative. This is our cheerleader from the city. Here he is. I mean, because he's not really doing anything.
Job, if that's his job, which we are agreeing it is for the most part, then he should have been here. And he was pretty clear he's not too interested in his job right now, is what that tells most people.
Yeah,
Really?
I mean,
That's harsh.
I don't disagree with that. I've criticized AFTAB where I've said that I think he loves
Terrible.
the idea of being mayor more than being mayor, right? Like
What?
that's been a criticism that I've had of him. But
I'll
mean,
just say that he
do
told
we really need one more? Do we really need one more AFTAB quote about needing full accountability and how awful crime is? Like, that's the thing. Like, well, he needs to be here to put out a statement. It's like he says the same. He says the same thing after every one of these situations happens. Crime is out of control. We need full accountability. Blah blah blah. He could probably just video record himself and just run it on a loop every
we
time
could just
something
get an
happens.
AI
It's not like he's
robot,
seeing anything go
put it
foul.
in the mayor's office.
See, there you go. Y'all see, here, there's two things happening. One, as I've said before, once the people that have a political axe to grind with you get their claws in you and get focused on you, it doesn't really matter what AFTAB, the mayor, does. If he had been here and walked in the opening day parade and then left, they'd say, why'd you leave early? If he were here for the entire day, they say, why didn't you do this or do that? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I get it. He signed up for that. So that's just the arrows that come with it. But I think something else is going on here. I saw an op-ed piece that was in the Inquirer by a young university student at the University of Cincinnati. And the headline was something kind of like, Mayor AFTAB can't lead from vacation. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? We are really underplaying the value of vacation, right? Like, in our society, we don't really value people taking time off and stepping away from the stress of their jobs. We don't really value how that makes you stronger when you walk back into the office in general. And then I thought, like, this young person, they're at the University of Cincinnati. They don't really know how real life really works. So I think people are really
know that I need a
underplaying
vacation.
the value of vacation.
I know that I need a vacation now and then to walk away from the stress of this show.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You and Terrace. But I'm serious though. Like, we as a society in general, we don't really value time away. We don't really value time to recharge and how that makes you better in your job, coming back in the door.
I'm sure the mayor and city manager told a lot of those city workers that you cannot take this time off. Opening day, all hands on deck. You're all going to have to show up.
No.
I just feel like as the head of the city, he should have the same expectations for himself than he has of his staff.
Why? To do what? Just to stand there and take pictures?
Well, I do kind of echo Michelle's sentiment. I think any good leader or good captain, you're not going to ask your soldiers to do anything you're not prepared to do yourself.
Right.
And I think if you make it a mandate, again, this comes down to what is your view of leadership and what a leader should be, right? And when you're the mayor, you open yourself up to those criticisms of your constituency when they see you not leading in ways that they think they should. I agree with you, Nathan. People deserve and should take time off, but the mayor should be smarter about it. And like I said, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe circumstances said that opening day, this was the only time he could get away. And if so, it is what it is. I'm going to always say, go with your family, because at the end of the day, the kids that he's going to raise and his family is the most important thing in his life. People aren't going to like to hear that. Oh, the city should come first. Bump that. He's going to put his family first, as a good father, as a good husband should. There are too many people who sacrifice their families on the altar of ambition so that they can look good for other people who are not their family. So I can respect that. But if he could have been more strategic, he should have been more strategic. That's all I'm saying.
Well, my problem is that if nothing would have happened on opening day, nobody would be saying this. So that tells me that the critique is linked to the fact that something happened, right? And the mayor is not a first responder. He's not a police officer. He's not EMS. What was he going to do? Like, he wasn't going to run down there and put on some of the gear and hold up a shield. He was never going to do that. At the very most, he might have tweeted something or put out a statement, or at the very most, maybe he would have did an emergency late night press conference. But you can do that anywhere. So I just feel like we have to separate what are credible critiques and what is ridiculous. And this is a ridiculous, preposterous, bad faith, politically motivated critique. There's a lot of things that are legitimately we should be criticizing the mayor about. This ain't one of them. This is not one of them. And I'm sure there was a lot of people that work in City Hall and or for the government that took vacation on opening day, because that's what good leadership, that's what good employees should do. You should go on vacation. You should get away from the office. You should get away from the job. It makes you better when you come back.
I disagree with you, Brother Nathan. And this is why I disagree, is in leadership positions, optics are everything. And when this happened, if the mayor, and we know in other cities, when a music fest or things happen, they got the mayor up there jamming, you know, he's interacting, he's backstage. I mean, this is just PR to build up relations in the process. When this jumped off, yeah, he should have came back and immediately said, this is a problem in my city. I'm going to work my way back to make sure that things are in order. Even if he didn't mean it, he still should have presented himself that I'm gonna be in the mix no matter what. But if you take it as if I could care less, who cares? I'm on vacation. The city can burn while I'm gone. And if the people are looking at the top guy, they want to see the mayor in the mix. It's just a great PR tool to use no matter what happens, how these events come out. It doesn't take long to shake hands, wave, kiss a little babies, and say, peace out, thank you.
And I think
Brother Dre, that's a big stretch. That's a big stretch.
No,
to
it's
say
not.
that
It is
because
the
he was
biggest
on vacation.
I think the thing you're missing.
That's a big stretch, guys. In my opinion, to say. Let me just get this out real quick. That's a big stretch, in my opinion, Brother Dre, to say that because this man took a vacation during opening day, that he don't care. Let it burn. I do not believe that at all.
Yeah,
I do not believe that at all.
That's a stretch, and that's the extreme. And I think that's where some people leave it, right? Or lose it, like lose the argument. Like people just can't stop at making a decent point that says major events that are signature or highlights of the city, the mayor should try to be here for that, all things being equal, right? Everything else, some low-level festival, something like that, people aren't going to cry if the mayor's not there. But I'm talking about a signature event. It would be like the NFL commissioner not showing up for the Super Bowl, right? Like people would look at that and be like, well, this is a major event. Why isn't the NFL commissioner at the Super Bowl? So again, this is not about AvTab not being allowed to have vacation time or take vacation time, but it is about being present in your city when you have big things going on. If there was a major convention or the NCAA tournament or something that is, you know, the World Cup, AvTab would absolutely be there, you know, to make sure that he was there for the pictures. And if Sundance Film Festival had come to Cincinnati, you can't tell me AvTab would have took vacation if Sundance had come, particularly as much as he stumped for that and tried to get it to come to Cincinnati. So we can't pretend like the mayor's presence at major events in the city is no big deal because he bills it that way. You can't say, hey, if we bring these huge things as big for the city, oh, but I don't have to be there.
You're being unfair. You're being unfair.
So again, no, it's not unfair, Nathan. I mean,
Can I tell you how you're being unfair?
As I said, it's a reasonable expectation.
Can I tell you how you're being unfair?
Say that the guy doesn't care, or we should recall the mayor or vote him out. No, that's going too far. But it's not unreasonable to suggest that the mayor ought to be present for these types of things. And that he should try to do his best to schedule to make sure he's here. That's not unreasonable.
I think
people are not crazy for suggesting that.
I think you're absolutely correct. Like if Sundance came to Cincinnati, I think that Mayor AvTab would be there because it'd be the first time. And there are multiple photographs of Mayor AvTab at opening days. Opening day has been going on for 100-something years here. That we'll manage without him being there. And he's been at, I don't know how many he's been at, but he's been at multiple because there's videos. I mean, there's videos and there's photographs online. So you're right. If Sundance came here for the first 2 or 3, 4, he'd probably be there. After 100 years, we'll be okay. We'll be okay if he don't show up to 1 or 2 because he's on vacations. We can recharge and come back and lead our city. We'll be okay. I mean, come on, we got to be big kids. We got police chiefs and city managers and all kinds of people that take care of these kind of issues. The mayor is not a first responder. We'll be able to get by. We got to stop playing into the anti-AVTAB hype by legitimizing
it's
these
real.
simple, these preposterous things.
It's real.
It is real.
You know,
you're right, Michelle.
I'm just going to say, and this is maybe inside baseball stuff here, pardon the pun, but you know, he walked into an endorsement with the AFL-CIO Labor Council in this city, which is the leadership of labor in this city, and said, I can't wait to get back to the private sector. It can't happen quick enough. It was a terrible interview. We did not, we took no position on endorsement in the race. His questionnaire was insulting to labor in the city. It was surprising, the things he wrote and how he felt about things. Not surprising given his policy positions. I'm just saying he had this real attitude where, you know, I'm just doing this because it's the next thing and I can't wait to be done with it. So with that information that I have, when I see the fact that he skipped out on opening day, which is the biggest day for Cincinnati, Ohio, it was just one more piece of evidence to me that, like, okay, this guy doesn't really care, you know, about the role of mayor. There is no question. When people heard he wasn't in town, it was like, oh, like what? I mean, it's not okay. I'm sorry. You can justify it, rationalize it all you want. It's a major holiday for our city. It's symbolic of our city. And plus there's a heightened, like the FOP president said, there's some heightened risk stuff going on. We are at war in this world. It was a gathering of thousands of citizens in our streets. It could have been, you know, there's just a lot of heightened risk right now with everything going on in the world. And dude should have been here. You know, that's his job. You're mayor of a city. You should have been in the city when we had our biggest, hugest event with thousands upon thousands of families in our streets, because he is a first responder if things go wrong. He is the head decision maker of our city. Those people, when you get elected to city council, you get briefed on all kinds of emergency information. There's, you know, if things happen, you get briefed on where the emergency thing, you know, the decisions you have to make as an elected. You have to make decisions about, you know, rapid response stuff, fire department, you know, what's going to, you know, if there's a bomb threat. I mean, there is real power and responsibility with that role. And so it's not just some fluff ribbon cutting thing. You know, we're at this point, we're beating this point over the head. I'm just
here's one thing I would say. Here's one thing I would say, Michelle, where
my birthday is in September. To me, it should be a citywide holiday, and I expect for the mayor to be in time for my birthday. Like, how far are we gonna take this?
What? That's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. Wait. It is crazy. It's preposterous, isn't it? It's preposterous.
Is there a risk?
You guys sound to me preposterous.
How many thousands of people are coming to your birthday party? I mean, like, if
wait. It's major in my world.
I'm coming.
There are thousands of people in this city who don't go to opening day.
But thousands do. I'm just saying, it's a crowd.
Exactly, but my birthday is important to me. I expect for the mayor and the city manager and everybody to be in town for my birthday because it's my birthday. That's how you guys sound. He does not have to be here for every single event. There are major events in Cincinnati every day.
It's the biggest event of our city.
Here's a point that I also tried to make in my piece, which we don't know. And I really wanted to do this because I couldn't in time for what I was writing. I wanted to try to get a hold of, you know, at least the most recent mayors that we've had and try to find out how many of them were in town for every opening day. Here's a point that Nathan made that's a good point that I agree with. Most people didn't even know AVTAB was out of town until after everything had already shaken loose. So it wasn't like people was checking for him, looking for him, or even really cared whether he was at opening day, right? Like that's a little bit of the disingenuousness of the criticism, because nobody was checking for him. And it wasn't until a little bit later that you discovered that he wasn't in town that people were like, oh, he should have been there. Well, you didn't even know he wasn't there, right? Because nobody cared, mainly because nothing hardly ever happens at opening day. I mean, we do opening day every year and rarely does anything happen. It is one of the most festive, joyous, and let's just say snoozer type days, because nothing really big newsworthy happens outside of the game and the parade and people down there. Like this just
That's
so
not the
happened
point,
to be.
though. Something could
It's
happen.
but I'm just saying, Michelle, let's just be, this is where we have to be. This is where we have to keep things in perspective, right? Nothing hardly ever happens at opening day, right? Hardly ever, right? So that doesn't mean that things can happen or things would happen.
I'm not going to debate
It
this
usually
anymore. I give up.
doesn't happen. Okay, so we have to temper that criticism
No,
a
I'm
little
not
bit. But I would
anything.
love to go back and see. I would love to go back and see how many former mayors didn't show up for every opening day and what people had to say then.
Kevin, let me say something.
The other thing that I think is a little bit overreaction and a little bit overstated was what Michelle said about, you know, all these command decisions and things that you have to make as a mayor, as if we don't have cell phones, as if we don't have technology to where if stuff happens, you can get a hold of the mayor and he can immediately begin to jump into and start giving directions. There's nothing that says that he would. There's nothing that says he would have to be on the ground in Cincinnati to make command decisions. Hell, George W. Bush was reading. George W. Bush was reading to a kindergarten class full of kids when 9/11 hit. I'm quite sure that he immediately started making decisions about what we should do nationally from there. Nobody said, well, he's not actually he or he's not at the White House.
He was actually mocked. He was mocked for basically somebody whispered in his ear when he's talking to that group of kids, and he just went right on talking.
Yeah, because that's what they told him to do. They were like, hey, don't scare the crap out of these kids, you know, which is probably the right thing to do, right? I mean, it's ridiculous to criticize the man for that, to say, oh, what's he supposed to say? Hey, kids, I got to go. You know, we're under attack and you might get killed. He would have got killed.
Why did the city manager?
I get it. I get the whole being here. I even agree with it, but I think you got to have a little bit of perspective. And I think people are taking it a little bit too far.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I'm just saying, when the crap went down at the music fest, the city manager was like, you need to come home right away to the Fiji, because she was in some conference somewhere in Vegas or whatever. It's like, well, why couldn't she deal with what she had to deal with over the cell phone? I mean,
she could have.
I mean, you know.
In my opinion, she could have. I didn't agree with that either. People said it about Fiji.
And hopefully she was. I mean, if again,
let the woman do what she's got to do.
This would be another, and I'm quite sure it didn't go down this way. I would hope that it would. I would actually hope that the conversation between the police chief and the city manager was more than get your butt back to Cincinnati. You know, all heck is breaking loose. I'm hoping that there would have been a lot more conversation there, and that Fiji was making phone calls to other people in the police department. See, that we got to be careful how we frame this stuff sometimes. Like, we frame this stuff up in the most ridiculous manner, as opposed to say, what is more likely? Is it more likely that the city manager just called the police chief and said, get your butt back from this conference in Cincinnati, and nothing else happened until Fiji actually plane touched ground in Cincinnati? Or was things happening after that phone call? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's exactly like what you said. But I think we frame these conversations in such cartoonish nature that it doesn't take into account what most likely happened.
She was out of town. You're saying, well, he could deal with stuff when he's out of town. He has a cell phone. I'm like, well, so did she. I mean, I'm just using the same example.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, Michelle. I felt the same way about Fiji. I'm like, why did she was at a conference or something. I'm like, let the woman go to a conference. She's probably going to learn some good practices or make some connections that'll make the city a little stronger, or she can bring some good ideas back to Cincinnati. I didn't understand it with her either. She don't have to be in town. Right? She's the chief. She got a whole bunch of responsibilities. She doesn't have to be here just because there's a major event. They got a whole command staff and 1,000 officers. I mean, if she's got to be here, we got a real problem, in my opinion. But let's move on here.
And again, there's a difference between not being here when it happens and then when it happens and turning around and returning. So I get the police chief was at a conference in Denver or wherever she was. Rightfully so, she should have come back and did, in the same way that the mayor should have come back and did after that. No. I'm not going to beat them up because they were out of town when it happened. But when it happens, then you do have to pivot. You do kind of have to pivot. And that's just the way that these things go. I mean, I get what you're saying. You got number twos and stuff like that. But the reality is when stuff hits the fan, people are looking for number one, not number two.
Well, we got to let people, not just number 1, 2. They got number 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 1,000. Got 1,000 officers. She'll be okay. And I will agree that there might be a scenario in which there's some kind of disaster or something that's really, really big that happens in the city that would bring them back. But this stuff that happened, I mean, it's terrible for the people that got hurt. But in the larger scheme of things, stop it. It's just, you have some rowdiness. On opening day. That's all it really amounted to.
It's drunkenness.
Some rowdiness. And that's a real, we got to raise the bar in terms of what we expect, with our leadership, in my opinion. But again, we can always agree to disagree. But let me move on. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about Damon Lynch IV. Have you guys seen this? He's launched this website called Genocide Greg, and he's talking about Greg Landsman. And I just want to ask you what you think about it in general. And do you think it's going to work, or is it going to injure Greg Landsman? I mean, is this what you should expect from a primary? Listen, here it is. I've gone to the website and checked it out for myself. It's got a long list of the different contributions that allegedly from this website. I haven't done a legwork myself, but I do have some general knowledge about some of the contributions that he's accepted. And Damon Lynch IV, who is a Democrat challenger in the primary, seems like he's going really, really hard with this. Is this effective strategy or just desperate strategy, or are they the same, in your opinion?
I mean, I definitely think I don't know if I would categorize it as desperate. I mean, it's definitely strategy. I mean, look, Damon Lynch IV has got to do whatever he can to get recognition. I mean, I would say Damon's got problems enough of his own that he's got to manage within his campaign, and some of the things that he said and some things in his background that he's going to have to defend against and try to convince people of. But as I said when he was on here, this is a weakness for Landsman. His stance on Israel, both in Iran and in Gaza, it's a weak point for him with some voters, with some people. Is it going to be enough for them to turn away from him and go to Damon Lynch IV? I honestly don't think so. I just don't think Damon has the money, to compete with Greg. I mean, look, let's just get down to the bottom line and the brass tacks. That it takes money to win elections, and Damon ain't got it like Greg's got it. And that's ultimately what's going to, I think, bear out at the end of the day. I think this is probably smart for him politically to something like this. I mean, he's already won because gotten news coverage. I mean, how many people probably are aware of this that weren't aware of it or him before? So I think from that vantage point, it's a winner for him because he's getting some recognition from it. Now, how much Landsman likes it, I imagine he probably doesn't like it a ton. And, I know Jewish people are very sensitive about, sort of having that word genocide attached to some of their activities. So I wouldn't be surprised if in some circles, Damon didn't start getting hit with sort of anti-Semitic language for using that and putting that website up there. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, in that community.
Well, one thing I'm curious about is Trump is asking Congress, I think, for $1 trillion in war spending next, and while cutting domestic spending, cutting our health care, cutting federal funding for services for our American families. And the question is, to me, is Greg going to once again vote with Trump for another $1 trillion in war spending? Or is he going to stop voting for more warmongering funding? So while what Damon Lynch is doing with the Genocide Greg website might feel offensive to some, I think for many of us, we are concerned about what his votes have been already to date with aligning with the spending of supporting wars. And now, right before him, he's got another vote coming up on another $1 trillion. And so I think Democrats are very most Democrats, I think, are very unhappy with his votes. And I think Damon's just kind of like, of course, using that for his own candidacy, as he should, to contrast himself with his opponent. But yeah, I think that's the real question, Greg Landsman, is while there might not be people resonating with this Genocide Greg messaging, the question is, what are you going to do next, sir, with your votes?
I need to jump off to do my podcast. Can I just say a quick comment here? You know, there's an expression. Can you guys hear me? I'm hearing an echo. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you. Or I
There's
can
an
hear you.
expression that the good is the enemy of the great. Okay. And having interviewed the guy who's going to be the Republican candidate against Landsman, who has got a pretty impressive background in CIA, Army intelligence, and he is well funded. And that district is a leaning Republican district. And, you know, I'm a Republican, but I am not going to vote. I'm going to vote for Landsman, not in the primary, but in the general, if he wins, because I think he is so much. It's so important we not put election deniers into office. And the guy who's going to be the Republican candidate is going to be a pro-Trump, election denier, all that stuff. And those are the people that need to get voted out. And I'm just telling you, Michelle, every shot you or others take at Greg Landsman now, that's going to be used against
Not a shot. It's a question.
Excuse me, just a second. That's going to be used. That is doing nothing but hurting him and causing him to spend money now they shouldn't have to spend. So I think this is a clear example where people need to say, look, there is a greater concern with having a pro-Trump guy getting elected, and let's do whatever we can to make sure that doesn't happen. And attacking Greg Landsman is definitely hurting his chances in the general.
Well, he can answer then. He needs to answer for his votes, and he needs to give an answer.
So, but
Is
what
it-
do you
I think Phil's position. I think Phil's
let-
position is a bad one based on the notion. Like, look, I like primaries. I like vigorous primaries. I like it when candidates have to stand on their record and defend their record. And I think candidates come out stronger from tough primaries. We got to get out of this notion that, you know, we've adopted this notion now that candidates shouldn't dirty each other up in the primary because what's going to be used against them in the general election. Sure didn't hurt Donald Trump. I think that's a weak-minded way of thinking about our candidacies is, oh, let's hold back and treat candidates with kid gloves. No, Landsman needs, because regardless of whether Damon Lynch the fourth or somebody else brings it up, the Republicans are going to come at Greg Landsman with something. They're not going to come at him about this issue with Israel because they can't, because he voted with
everything
them.
comes down
so
to turnout.
attack him on that.
Everything comes down to turnout. And if people are attacking Greg Landsman now, even if he wins the primary for genocide or whatever the heck, it isn't so much, oh, gee, he's going to come out weak. Or what is going to happen is it lowers the enthusiasm by, let's say, people that are aligned with Michelle or whatever, and those people are less likely to vote in the general.
But that's
I think Phil's on point.
that's an immature. I guess Phil. I guess what I would say is this: is it's sort of like, hey, we're all on this as Democrats or Republicans or whatever your leaning is. You got to be like, hey, at the end of the day, whoever emerges from this primary is our guy, whether we 100%.
But they don't.
With him,
they don't act that way.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, though.
So you want a perfect world, or you want to elect a pro-Trump congressman?
His votes have been, the question is he going to vote for Trump's $1 trillion wartime?
Who cares? It's a choice between him
who cares?
and
Then what's
this
the difference?
Who cares?
Bill, who cares?
Who you are you
This
going
is
to
why
vote for the
Democrats are
Republican, Michelle,
losing.
and the general? Who cares?
Voters care.
Phil's making a very interesting point. I mean, let's be fair here. It's something to consider. And I understand your logic. You know, it's like, okay, great. Greg Landsman needs to be challenged and he needs to be called out. But what's the greater threat? What's the greater threat? Is it Landsman, or as he said, he spoke with the guy who might be the front runner. And I've done just a little bit of research. He's strong. He is strong. He's well funded. So you take this moral outrage with Greg Landsman in the primary, and you end up losing the seat. So what did you really want?
It's about funding. It's about budgets. It's about votes. I mean,
I hear Michelle's point. It's we're talking about major issues here, right? We're talking about major issues. And so if Landsman is no different than the MAGA guy on the major issues, the ones that matter most to your constituencies, that's why people are on Landsman, because many people feel like his vote with Trump was a betrayal of the local values, right? And so it's like, hey, if this guy is going to do that, then what difference does it make whether we got him or the Republican? We need a Democrat.
You want me to go through the difference between Landsman and Trump? Landsman, the guy who's running against,
I'm not saying
is a pro-Trump across the board. You're saying a pro-Trump guy is no different from a Greg Landsman? They're all the same?
Right.
Landsman
he's voting.
Landsman needs to answer for his votes, and he's not doing that. And Damon Lynch's candidacy is calling him out to the playground. Come on out. Fight with me. Explain yourself. And this is what primaries do. Explain yourself. Absolutely. Why should people vote for you in this primary over me? And Landsman needs to respond.
You say to what end, Nathan? From Damon's perspective, to what end is to win. Like, he thinks he's the better candidate, the better choice. So he's fighting. I mean, look, as any candidate would, you fight to win. Like, Lynch is not running against Greg Landsman to like, I'm just his sparring partner. I'm just going to try to keep him in shape for the general. He thinks he can win. We can agree or disagree with that, but he thinks he can win, and he's playing to win.
Right. Definitely. But sometimes people run to show that they can run strong. Right. Sometimes people run knowing I ain't going to win this, but if I run strong, then maybe in the next election, I can attract more support and more money. And we all know that people do that. I'm not saying that's what Damon is doing. All I'm saying is that I think that what Phil's saying is extremely credible. And to compare, and I haven't done all the homework, but to compare Landsman to what would be his Republican challenger and say they are the same is ignorant. Straight up, they are not the same.
So the Republican candidate has no record. Greg Landsman does, respectfully.
Right. What's up, Braxton?
Well, I can tell you, I interviewed the guy who's going to run against him. I'll tell you what his positions are.
Which are?
When I asked him about January 6th, he basically is pro-Trump all the way. Okay, 100%. That's his positions. So he's made that very clear. And by the way, in about a couple of weeks, we're going to post that interview, and you guys can take a look at it yourself.
Yeah, can't wait to read it. Can't wait to see it. Should I say not read it?
Here's the other part where I disagree with Phil, right? Challenging Greg Landsman on this, we're looking at it as it could be a negative for him, that he has to answer for this record with Democratic voters. It may force Greg to look at his position and change up and say something that allows those voters to get back more in concert with him, right? So it's like, hey, explain your vote. Where is this going? What are you going to do next? That gives him an opportunity. We're talking about this as what Damon Lynch is doing as a way for Greg to lose votes. This is an opportunity for him to speak to his votes and try to win some of the people back who are already skeptical about him. That's how a good candidate thinks. This is why I'm saying, like, you can run on a politics of fear and like, that's weak. Like, the Democrats got to get out of that. Like, I feel like this is why people feel like Democrats are weak. So sometimes it's this defeatist. Oh, we can't stand up under the heat or the pressure. No. Let's not challenge. That's weak stuff, man.
No. What makes Donald
Trump absolutely is.
Go along, get along, gang.
Well, what makes Trump's base so strong is that they look at the bigger picture, and that's supporting him. You see these street interviews all the time where they'll say, well, do you agree with Trump on this? They say, oh, no. Do you agree with Trump on this? They say, no. Do you support Trump? Yes. That's strength, right? That's strength. It's like they know he's not perfect, but they spit out the bones and keep supporting. And that's what makes him so strong. And that's what you see with a lot of Republicans. Yeah, I know this guy ain't perfect, but I'm voting for him, period. Yeah, I know this candidate, I don't agree with this, but I'm voting for him, period. And that's their strength. And that's where we are today in a world that is heavily gerrymandered. And so I think we need to, because of the new reality of gerrymandering, we got to rethink the way that we approach these things. We can't.
So what you're saying is, Nathan, then, is Democratic voters are weak, not the candidates. That's what you're saying. So you're saying where Republican voters have strength and they stick together, you say Democratic voters are weak. And this is a challenge that I've made that you guys have pushed back on me, because I've said all the time that Democratic voters get in their feelings, right? They get in their feelings. If such and such a candidate don't make me feel all warm and fuzzy, I can't vote for him. That's the same thing that's the same criticism. I'm glad you said it, brother, because that's the same criticism that I've had of the Democratic voting base for years. Is that if there's one little thing that they don't like about a candidate, they get all in their feelings and I can't vote for him. It's why Hillary lost. It's why Kamala lost. It's why all of these Democratic candidates who should have won lose, because Democrats get in their feelings. And so I'm glad to hear you finally agree with me and say it, because that shows.
If that's how you want to take it, you can take it that way. Apply that logic to what you just said. Now apply that to this circumstance with Greg Landsman. And what's the prescription? The prescription is what Phil said, which is don't get in your emotion, look at the bigger picture.
I agree. And that should happen whether you have a tough primary or not. So that's all the more reason why we should be able to have a tough primary, because at the end of the day, we shake our hands, we shake hands and we say, hey, we're coming together. That's what it would be. But what you're saying, what you and Phil are saying is that Democratic voters aren't capable of that, because if the primary is too tough, some people will get in their feelings and they won't support Landsman in the general. That's what you're saying.
That's the reality of the way modern day elections work. Yeah, that's how people work.
So then you agree with my perspective.
It's not about this perfect scenario. It's about dealing with people in the way they actually work. I think that what Phil said was on point. Like, what is the bigger issue here?
Phil is advocating giving them a pass. That should never be the case at any Democrat Republican primary. You should never.
That's not what I heard. What I heard is be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. That's what I heard. What I heard is what is the biggest threat if you're a Democrat? Is it Greg Landsman, or is it a Republican taking over the 1st congressional district?
You can't tell right now. You can't tell.
Oh, you can definitely tell. Stop it. Stop it.
I think that's the point, is where's the voting record, the upcoming vote on the $1 trillion to strip $1 trillion away from domestic spending for our families in this country and give it over to warmongering for Israel is the question. Are you going to vote with Trump on his request, or are you going to vote with the American people on what they need? I think that is I'm not up in my feelings. I'm asking this man who's our congressman, where are you going to vote? It matters.
That's fair. It does matter. I agree with you 100%.
And for Damon Lynch to create a website, and yeah, it's dramatic.
It's provocative.
But that's the question, He's challenging him. You're voting with Trump on the wars and all this money going to war for Israel. What are you going to do? Are you going to continue to do that? Is that what we can expect from you?
I think that's fair. Again, I'll say it again. I think if you're a politician, it is fair for you to be questioned on whatever your record is and what your perspective record is. But I think that Phil made a very valid point. Be careful what you ask for, because there might be some unintended consequences to what you're doing. And you might end up getting a candidate in that seat that is way, way worse than what you have or what you already have.
What's way worse than funding $1 trillion taxpayer dollars Okay, that's the question. I think Greg can answer that, and he'll have to when he wins the primary. He's going to likely win the primary.
He might.
And I think he's going to have to contrast himself with the Republican MAGA guy.
He might. But what about Phil's point that, and again, he's not here to back this up, but Phil made, I thought, was an interesting point. Maybe I'm wrong, that it could lead to lower enthusiasm in the general because Greg, or whoever, we're just using Greg in this case, gets beat up, or all these things come out about him in the primary. Because it's all about turnout, right?
Well, that'll make them better.
This midterm will probably have historic turnout. We know this. It's not just Greg's race. It's every single race on this ballot. There's so much at stake, especially for the state of Ohio with Sherrod Brown, with Amy Acton and others. I can't see how this will chill voter turnout if we give Greg some hard-hitting questions about his voting record. That's ridiculous.
Is it ridiculous for people to say, hey, listen, I got a real problem with you because of this Israel stuff, and I'm not going to turn out in the general? I don't know if that's maybe you're right. I don't know. There's people that know way more about this than I do, so maybe you're right.
Well, and Landsman's not the only thing. We're acting like Landsman is the only thing on the ballot in November, and this is the thing. This is the mental calculation that you got to make. That if we're expecting the blue wave or whatever they're saying is at the midterm for people who are going to come out and vote for tons of races and issues in November, Landsman is just one of those. And so the calculation that you would have to make is that Democrats who are going to come out and vote overwhelmingly Democrat in November are going to stop at Landsman's race where he's against a MAGA opponent and say, I'm going to leave that blank. I just don't believe that that's going to happen. Yeah. I think Democrats turn out, they vote Democrat.
It happened in the last election with AOC. People they couldn't believe the voting patterns where they related. You had people that voted for AOC that actually voted for Trump. So people did exactly that in the last big election. And what I'm saying is we have to look at where we are now and stop analyzing politics through the lens of 20, 30 years ago. There's a whole new generation of people who are voting. People are getting their information from different places. And I believe they're going to start voting. You're going to see it voting and maybe in some different ways. This ain't our grandparents' electorate. It's not even our generation. You know, people are looking at things very differently.
The primary results for this race will be super fascinating. I can't wait to do a postmortem on this and see, you know, how Greg did. Where did he do well? What was the turnout? Was there a drop off on the ballot and people just left his box blank because they're not happy with, you know, some of his votes? I mean, I think it'll be a good discussion to see how that race shakes out and how we then pivot to the general and what does that mean for him, you know?
Right. I think I agree with you. It's going to be fascinating as we move forward. But we got, I call him Black Russia, Graxton, on with us. What's up, Graxton?
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, bro?
Can you hear me?
Bro? Yes, sir.
All right. Hello to everybody.
What's happening?
What's up? What's on your mind, man? Why'd you link in?
Well, I linked in. No, it's okay. I linked in, and thanks for giving me the opportunity. I linked in because initially I heard the conversation about the city manager and the police chief Easier. Am I right about that? Y'all did dive into that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, my perspective, I saw a good number of letters to the editor, Kevin, describing the angst with the city manager now becoming more of the focal point than the police chief about how this all is playing out. And so my situation, here's how I feel, and I felt like this for about the last 6, 7, 8 months now, that the city manager is the individual that should be on the chopping block, not necessarily the police chief, because even if you look at the 9-page report, the police chief is saying the summer plan was the mayor and the city manager's idea, not her idea. She was responsible for implementing it. So how do you dismiss somebody for implementing your plan? And now I think people are starting to really pick up on the fact that the city manager is incompetent and that she needs to go. That's what I'm starting to read in the paper. That's what I'm starting to hear in the streets. I've been in that position for a long time. This city manager has been ineffective. Not the police chief being ineffective. Like the report says, the city manager has been ineffective. Think about everything that's happened. Snow plowing, between the basic operations of the city, are we better off today than we were in 2018 when AvTab took office as far as basic operation of the city? My answer is no. I'm just curious about whether or not the panel has any opinion on the city manager.
All right, bro. Thanks for the calling in. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Yep, take it easy. That's y'all call him Grafson, but old school Nathan Ivey show used to call him Black Russia. So that goes back to the Russian interference in the election and some of the stuff he does politically. I mean, and we better off. I don't notice the difference in terms of the processing of the city. I would say I'm not worse off. I think that if people want to question a city manager, she's in that position, his political position is public. Okay, deal with the questions. I don't perceive her as being any worse than anybody else. I think the city's moving in the right direction. I just feel like you got some people out there that are trying to politicize every little thing. The snow, we had record amount of snow and ice, record amount of freezing temperatures. I mean, it was different. So that's just me though. But what do you guys think?
Well, before well, go ahead, Brother Dre. I'll let you go because I know this is teed up for you. I was going to let, because I know you got a lot to say, so I was just going to try to get mine out.
Man, I'm not even. We mowed this down with the FOP president. I think the points were made that needed to be made in the process, and I've been consistent through years talking about the process with the city manager and with the chief and the whole shebang. So when you really look at it, everything is what I said. It's imploding from the top down. And I've said this before on the show. The city manager needs to manage, get out of the camera way. And this has hurt her because in my career, you never even knew who the city manager was. That's the deep part about it. Just in my last pretty much 5 years, did we have city managers showing up the roll calls trying to ask who's the chief, and her wanting to be that public and vocal scene, it really has hurt her. So she has become a target in the same voice. So you can't get rid of Thigi without getting rid of the city manager. What I would like to see is Thigi snitch on everybody. Just come on out and say, here is documentation of everything that I was told to do, and my integrity's on the line, and I wanted to change it, and here's emails proving that. So that would squash a lot of stuff. You talked about documentation, just bring up the documentation.
She's waiting for the check first. Let her get paid first, then we'll do all that.
Yeah, if she gets paid, it ain't gonna come out.
Yes,
that's gonna
be
part of the payoff. What you gotta have, this gotta get to court, it's gotta get ugly, and that's when all of that information that Brother Dre is talking about coming out. Mm-hmm. See, that's where the city needs to think about this. The smart money might be on the payoff. I know that right now Thigi probably wants more than what the city is willing to pay, and I think she sees herself in a position right now to flex on that. She's like, hey, go ahead and fire me, because if you fire me, I'm gonna get this lawsuit, and then I'm gonna dump all this
report. If I was her and I saw that report, I'd be like, show me the money.
Really, when you think about it, like, I think people are looking at it wrong. Like, people are looking at it like Thigi's not in the power position. I actually think she is in the power position, because it's sort of like no matter what the city does, she's got a comeback. She's got a lawsuit. She's got dirt that she can spill and put out there and make the city look bad. She's got that. She's got cards to play. Where I think the city, they pretty much have to fire her at this point. I mean, that ought to be obvious to anybody who's paying attention. You're not going to spend $50,000 on a 9-page report. First of all, we need to get into that. I wish I could get $50,000 for writing a 9-page report. I could have done that. Let me interview 25 people. I got interview skills. I may not be a lawyer, but I know how to ask some damn questions. Okay, some people. Let me get that. Let me get that $50K, and I can produce a 9-page report for you. I'm a writer too. Come on, they could have gave me that money.
Oh, you could do that in one night.
At any rate, they're just, I think the city's in a bad spot right now with this particular thing. And as I said, it's not if they're going to pay her money, it's how much they're going to pay her money. They can't bring her back. after all of this. You got to fire her. You got to get rid of her. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, the city manager, when she makes that decision, is going to have to explain how the person that you hired, that you vetted, that you brought in here, that you didn't evaluate apparently for 7 years. She
She
gonna have
wasn't
to
around for
explain all.
7 years, Kevin.
I get that. Well,
Yeah, she's only been
however
city
long she's been
manager
around, she's been
for three
around.
years.
She's been around long enough, Iris, that the woman should have did an evaluation.
And
I get evaluated every
and
year
I've been around
annually.
long enough to know that high level officials really don't want evaluations in their jacket. I've been around long enough to know who the city manager was since we started the collaborative agreement. I've been around long enough to study the charter to understand, and you all talked about the Washington case. One of the things that did come down from federal court that said the city manager did not give Michael Washington due process to change what he had to change. So there are some structures, even though issue 5, and we fought like hell to get issue 5 because we were sick of getting police chiefs from the west side of town with this inherent thought that they should become chief of police, whether they understood the science of policing or not. And that's different from being a police officer. Being a leader inside of something that taxpayers pay for, this isn't some shit you're born into. This is some things that was created. And so while we fought for issue 5, not all of the controls were taken or provisions were taken away from the chief and assistant chiefs under issue 5. The charter dictates a process. And that's what is happening now because she did get slammed in federal court for not giving Chief Washington the process to rectify anything. We don't know the rest of what's about to come out in any more reports. We don't know that. We don't know. We don't know the names, but I was told, and I think the world was told through reports, that the names would be released, which is concerning because these are officers. And I wanted to ask Ken Colbert, I don't know if you're repping for the officers or you're talking against them. And Andre, maybe you can help me with that because as the president of the FOP, if that was rank and file, those were their words inside of that report. What the hell? I mean, what is he saying to them? I'm going against what you're saying. I don't believe you as your local representation. And then I want to address something Michelle said. No, the FOP is not supposed to weigh in on the selection of the chief. They're supposed to be a neutral partner. And because they have police officers that vote on contemporary policing activities, which I think they should not. If you've not been a police officer within the past 10 years, I think you should not have the opportunity to vote on things that are right now. I think you should go vote on where you're going to have your social events, but on policies and procedures and who does what, however they vote, I don't think the FOP should be able to weigh in on that particular selection. And that is written. They are supposed to be neutral to this process. And I wish that in this last election process, and when I say we, it is because of the collaborative that we are consulted because we are the class. We were the ones being killed. We were the ones being maimed. We were the ones being handcuffed and mistreated all over this daggone city by the people that we pay to protect us and serve us equally. So yes, I got a stake in this game. And yes, I was talking to interim chief Penny and assistant chief Hammer all through opening day and night. And we talked before then. So there are plans are put in place, but there are some things police don't have anything to do with, and they shouldn't have anything to do with. So I
Hey,
just
Iris.
wanted to address that. Yes.
So explain to us from your perspective why you don't want the police to be involved with the selection of the new chief.
I said the FOP.
I'm the
What
FOP.
what the city manager did for the first time, and Dre can correct me, for the first time that I know in 25 years, is she went to each district and she talked to everybody about what was their selection. What this city manager did for the first time since I've been around in 25 years was to allow me to construct and to design 2 community forums so that community could weigh in on who they wanted as chief. So it wasn't just about the police and um, folk who want to weigh in, whether it's from the regional chamber and all these muckety mucks that weigh in on a much louder and higher level than we do. Those are the voices that you don't hear from. The reason that we had to go stand on Government Square was because of the Fortune 500 and 100 companies downtown that were threatening the city that they will pull out because of Black children, because of the unions that Michelle worked with decided, or whomever. And we ain't never talked about the school board and its unions, and we need to desperately talk about them because they're not servicing our kids well. But when they speak because of the earnings tax and because of the employment and all that they bring to the city, people listen. And so it's hard to push back when you don't even see these vampires in the daytime because they have access that's different than yours and mine.
Well, I don't know what you're saying about our members of our union. Our teachers don't serve our children well. I'd have to
They don't. I'm looking at the grades and the numbers, and I'm looking at kids every day. I talk to kids every single day that come out of CPS. And I'm not
Well,
just saying this to you. I said it to the board too.
wrong people. You need to be looking at the Board of Ed and why they're not doing their job, which is fiscal support, instead of micromanaging teachers about test scores. While they're failing us on a
Is that an
levy.
old argument or is that something new? But I don't want to lose why I jumped in
There's
here.
nothing old
I think everybody that gets tax dollars should be scrutinized as well and as much as Iris Rowe has been in the year 2025. I don't give a damn if you're in the school board, the school union, or you the administration of the school administration. Everybody
Yeah,
should
the
be
school
should be
board.
should be scrutinized. But the
Mhm.
reason I got on here is that I wanted to be clear. And I said to Brother Dre, I can show you where the community said who they wanted to be police chief in the city of Cincinnati, and it wasn't Lisa Davis. And I can tell you that in the interviewing process, it didn't bode well for her. I can tell you these things. And I can also say to my community, the class of the collaborative, when I say we, I'm speaking for us, that Chief Blackwell didn't get treated like this. He was thrown out, he was locked out, made to walk back to District 1 in the rain. His keys, his phone, his car was taken from him. He wasn't put on paid leave like the charter dictate. And this was under Cranley and Smitherman. They locked him in a hallway when he got to District 1, wouldn't allow him to get his stuff, and treated him like he was a Class A felon. I didn't hear none of this none of this vitriol or this veracity around why the charter didn't work. Why was he treated that way? Heard nothing about it. And then he suffered a severe, massive stroke, and nobody said anything. Nobody gave a damn about how one leader, and he wasn't one leader, how one Black leader was treated. And that's what Cincinnati is truly known for. Now we're asking about a process that is much different than the way Blackwell was handled in this particular case. Now, I'm not the city manager, so I can't answer for you all as to why this was done. But when I observe the processes that I want to be fair, that I believe that we fought to have some say so in, this is what I'm looking at, and this is what I've seen.
Okay,
So Iris, I think
let me
that I hear
respond just
everything.
briefly, Kevin, if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly here. Yeah, and I call it the hatchet job assassination of Chief Blackwell was a disgrace, and this was public. That it also involved the former city manager Black. It also involved former Chief Elliot Isaacs, and it also involved current council member Scotty Johnson. And it was a very public on what does this look like when you had 3 Black men going after Blackwell. Personally, I never had an issue with Blackwell. So they conjured up a bunch of mess. I thought he was great for the community. He tried to get out, but he was not a strong West Sider, and he did not have any FOP support, period, because they didn't like issue 5 to begin with. So with that being said, even with the comments that Ken Colbert stated, Ken Colbert was on here playing politics. It was obvious. And I want people to understand that don't know that West Side connection is for real. It's got its own link all the way around. So the bottom line is, this is the question I would want to know, is we have 4 candidates. Even if our department wanted Lisa Davis, there was 2 other individuals that were outside dealing with that would give us an outside chief. So I'm trying to figure out, how did we end up with DG knowing she's the West Side connection. And Iris, you can answer this, and you had the influence. How do we sit back and say DG was the best candidate out of all three? That makes no sense when we wanted to go outside an agency, get other candidates to come in, but yet we still picked DG that was from the West Side and that was mentored by Stryker. That is mind-boggling to me all the way around.
So Jay, let me answer you.
Go ahead, Iris. We can hear you.
Let me answer you. So inside of the process, Chamberlain, which was the white guy from LA, there were some things that came up about Chamberlain, and I was actually at Dr. Odell Owens' funeral, and I got a. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, I'm on a delay. I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry.
We can hear you. Go ahead, Iris. We can hear you.
Yeah, just talk, Iris.
Can y'all hear me? I was listening. I need to not
we can hear
listen.
you.
Okay, great. So some
talk.
things came out about Chamberlain the day of Dr. Odell Owens' funeral that had not come out in the initial search through the headhunters. Now, if you all don't know, there's always a third party that will do the headhunting, that will send the notices out, that will hear from all of us, because they heard from all of us about where we wanted this particular notice to go out. And Brother Dre, I got to tell you, a captain asked me to go to the then interim city manager, which was John Kirk, and ask him to open up for captains for diversity. And I did that. And you know who I'm talking about. I went for an hour and a half and had a heated discussion with John Kirk about why we should open up our chief search to allow captains for diversity's sake. Because there weren't many in the pool, and there were some here that was interested. One. Two, Chamberlain, some very racist things came out about Chamberlain that we had to all gather together, and it was an emergency meeting. I was at Dr. Odell's funeral, and I was very upset that day because he was a huge mentor of mine, that I had to step out and hear these things about one of these people who was actually in the top running for chief of police, right, in the city of Cincinnati. Boone. Mr. Boone was from Virginia. Virginia did not have unions at that time. Well, Virginia was maybe 6 months into being unionized, where he was from. All of the captains, because Boone was a proud and strong Black man with a commanding voice and a very good record. All of the captains at that time said they were afraid to bring that Black man in here. I'm giving y'all the truth. And because he wasn't from a city that did not have union, that they would set him up in Cincinnati. And we've seen how they did Craig and how they did Blackwell.
So you telling me
from outside?
Did she get it by default?
I can't hear you, Dre. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with my phone.
Okay. So my question is, did Thigi get it by default? Because she clearly was not the best candidate.
Can y'all hear me now? I did all that talking and y'all didn't hear me.
Yeah, we heard you.
I still can't hear.
Iris had to have her log out and log back in to see if we
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. So Brother Dre asked your question. Brother Dre asked the question, did Thigi get it by default? Because clearly it sounds like she wasn't the best candidate.
I think Teresa Thigi got it because of her knowledge around the collaborative agreement. And you can only dig so far, Brother Jay. And I'm trying to figure out, how do we get past what one says that wants to be, whether it's a lateral candidate or police recruit or sergeant, captain, lieutenant, and even up to assistant chiefs. How do we get past what they initially say to really get to the person's true self? And what we've seen and what I've learned through policing is that it's damn near impossible unless they say, Iris, I just don't like Black people or Hispanics or women or children or something, just outlandish. Because people can say anything to you. And then there are some things that you can't ask. What I would say is that she stood strong to the outside candidates because of her knowledge about the collaborative agreement in my particular eyes. Was she my top candidate? No. She was my second one. She was my second.
Who was your top candidate?
Boone.
And what was wrong with Boone?
I just told you, Boone was from Virginia. Virginia didn't have a union. Um, it would have been difficult for him to come in here and try to be the chief of police with a little backing, not a lot of backing. Because we had seen what happened to Blackwell. We saw what happened to Craig after 2 years. Would you all have accepted him? There was a loud, resilient no for Boone.
I mean, I think he still probably would have did a better job. And the reason is because to the point of issue 5 is to stop this West Side connection. And we placed, just because she was a female, one of the top riders of the West Side. And this is why you see the support that she's getting from all type of West Siders that want to make sure that, hey, we support Thiegy regardless of the circumstances. Now, just like you said, Blackwell didn't get that support because he was from Columbus. And other chiefs,
And he was a far better chief, in my opinion. He was one
he
of the
was. And
best chiefs
Craig,
we've ever had.
who was considered, I mean, you just heard Ken Cobra said he was great, but he wouldn't drink the juice of being a puppet. And so at the end of the day, everybody knew that Thiegy knew exactly what she was going to do. She signed it and said, I will do whatever Ira say, whatever
She didn't do whatever I said. Don't be mistaken.
I knew that she was part of a collaborative agreement and sitting at the table, but that doesn't qualify her to be the chief of police. And we're seeing that today. If we want to keep issue 5 secure, then that's exactly what we're going to need to do. Is regard, of course, the ranking file said an absolute no. You know why? Because Craig came up in here and gave him some elbow grease. He said, look, I'm taking care of my people, and I don't have no ties here. So of course they remembered what Craig did, and they said, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and we'll never again have an outside black man or somebody else in here. And that's what we got to think about.
And so y'all hear the internal politics. You hear the internal politics of policing. So this has nothing to do with us on the outside. This is internal, how they think and feel inside of the police department. So if there are not enough black voices internally, we already know there aren't enough on the FOP, then our voice is not to be heard at all. The collaborative was created to help the black officers inside of CPD. That's why we did it. You were black no matter what your job was. It didn't matter. And we've been trying to help since then. But that's why the Sentinels are here, to help black police people.
You shouldn't have said
That's the mission and the purpose. Whether it's doing it or not, I'm not a police officer.
Hey,
I can't tell you.
Like I know, the Sentinel organization, I've said it public, are soft, weak. They don't stand for absolutely nothing. This is one
and
of
the FOP is disruptive and chaotic, and its old membership that votes on contemporary policing is problematic. And we need to be clear about what's wrong, but we also need to be clear about how to fix some things. And so these ancillary conversations that we're having, we need to understand the charter protects the chief. There are processes, Kevin. You saw her get there are processes.
To me, this isn't about the process. I get that we got processes and we got things that we got to follow. This is about selection and judgment, in my opinion. And I think what you just detailed is how much crap is in the sauce of trying to pick who is going to lead our police department. There are too many old, this black, collaborative, West Side. Like you can't.
No difference in my criticism of the inquiry.
You cannot get to your best candidate when you are already doing all of these different caveats, and we can't have this person because of this, or they're not going to support this person. You can't ever possibly get to the best candidate for the job when you got to go through all of these qualifiers and try to satisfy all of these different masters and everybody's bias and prejudice.
But Kevin, when we do get to the and again, so you had a different administration, you had a different administration, you had a different mayor. So let's just talk about Blackwell, because he told me, I met him a year prior before him coming here. We were all at a conference in Columbus. And he told me, he said, "Sister, I've been studying Cincinnati. You are Iris Rowley." And I say, "No, I'm not. I don't know her because I don't know how you all think about reforms, because that's where I come from, reforming police, right?" And so when he said he had been studying the collaborative and he thought it was one of the most forward thinking products ever produced in policing, same thing Fangman said after he retired. He didn't think that when he was FOP president, he thought about it as handcuffing, right? And so even as much as I disdained him when we first started, by the time he got ready to go, and I'm talking about Keith Fangman, he understood that the collaborative was the best thing this city could ever had, and we could
Oh,
quantify.
he's been converted. If you talk to Keith Fangman today, you wouldn't even recognize who
Is
Keith
that
Fangman
right?
was versus the Keith Fangman who was here. I remember who he was and how he was post 2001. And I've
Mhm.
interviewed and I've talked to Keith Fangman in recent years, and this brother is, I mean, he's knelt at the altar. I mean, this guy,
Is that right?
he's convert. I'm telling you, the conversation that you would have with Keith Fangman today
It's
versus
much
Keith
different.
Fangman back then is completely and totally
Wow.
different.
I want to
I
have that
couldn't believe it.
conversation.
You should have that conversation with him because I
We
do
should
think,
invite him on the podcast one of
yeah,
these times.
Next
I
Maybe,
week.
think,
maybe the
yeah,
collaborative
yeah,
anniversary might be a good ground to bring him in.
don't
But it's
even.
definitely,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chief
definitely.
Blackwell
Yeah,
is coming
you know
back.
what? Nobody's gonna ever argue the collaborative. It was needed. It is strong, and it's something that always should
Bill
be.
Heimlich did.
Well, like I said, I'm talking about people in the process that need to make sure the structure of the collaborative is needed and used properly. The bottom line is, I don't care if you have a chief necessarily that knows it from front to back. Fiji's always been good with procedures and policies. That's why she put her own nephew in internal affairs so she can go ahead and intercede on all the information. My whole thing is we do have some qualified black people that is ready to go. And I need to hear, number one, we all know that Captain Pettis got railroaded. And will she be in a position for the next assistant chief? Because there are no blacks in place, period. And that sister has earned her journey. She was fired. The information shows, and she was fired by Chief Fiji with a bogus investigation. And Ken Cobra was a key witness in that process. So
King
the bottom
Colbert
line
is
is,
perplexing to me.
we know that Fiji at this point is not the great leader, and we need to make sure if it's Henny, okay, because he's breaking up that West Side connection, because you can tell because of the internal issues that Ken even said that's going on. So that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Even though Henny is here, he's not part of one of the West Side connectors, and so
he
we
neither him or Hammer
go
are.
on.
Yeah, neither him or Hammer are, which I do appreciate. They're not from Cincinnati. They're from Cleveland. So they didn't grow up here thinking that they should be in the leadership of policing. And so and I appreciate you, Brother Dre, for saying the things that you were saying. But here's what I want to leave with. That's why we have a city manager form of government. It does end at her feet, right? The charter dictates a lot. The electeds tell the administration what to do, right? So I am grateful that right now this process is playing out the way that it did, because it didn't play out the way this way for take care, Nate. It didn't play out this way for Jeffrey Blackwell.
Mhm.
It barely played out this way for Craig. And so if you're going to be one way for non-blacks, be that way for the black people in leadership as well. We know that Cincinnati has historically done some very racist and very biased things towards leaders in this town. But this process right now, as I have read it and as I am looking at it, this is what the legislators have put in place for a city manager to follow. If we as citizens have issues with it, we need to then go back to our legislators and tell them to change the damn process. If the city manager wants to fire somebody, she should be able to do it. If we want these things to be in place to protect these people, then we need to have those conversations and not just lament about what we don't know, because what we don't know is that the charter protects her. The charter says that Chief Teresa Fiji gets to get these things right now and in place, and then she gets to decide which way she wants to go. That's what the charter says. Heck, I'm on the board. I'm on the commission. Let me say this, Kevin. I'm on the commission of public defenders. We selected a new chief public defender last year, but our old one is still in place because what was written into the contract before I got on the commission is that the old one would stay on board for an additional year. You understand? I mean, even internally, and Dre can talk about how Chief DG was able to drop out of one spot to get into another, to drop out of the protective service as assistant chief and then step into issue 5. All of that benefits people, but it never really benefits us because we don't get to that level. We don't get to the level of double dipping. And that's a lot of things that we've seen before in policing too. Somebody will retire, and the next thing you know, they come back as special chief or something. You know, you're like, what the hell is happening? Why is and especially if they weren't a good dude or a good female. So there are a lot of things that are still that we still need to take a look at. And that's what we will be discussing at the conference. Blackwell is coming back to do a session with us at the 25th. I told him he can say whatever he likes to say.
He
He
earned
gets
it.
to he earned it. He
He earned it.
earned it. He did earn it. I agree. And so I mean, as I said to you, Brother Dre, I went to the assistant city manager and asked him to open up the process for a captain. For a female black captain, so that she could apply to be the chief because that's what she said she wanted to do. And we needed to have diversity. So this is the first time in 25 years that we don't have anybody black on the command staff of CPD. That F's with me. That messes
And
with
it
me.
should for everybody, especially when the person is qualified. And you mentioned the Sentinel organization earlier, that they completely just need to fall off the face of the map because a lot of issues that have occurred has been by way of the Sentinel organization supporting Chief DG, pictures with Chief DG, and staying in her corner. That you cannot attack a high-powered black woman like Captain Pettis without the help of black police officers, and that's exactly what happened. But the evidence is clear. But I will not rest until Captain Pettis has her just due because she is extremely qualified, and the community needs to see how qualified she really is with her record and the things that she has accomplished. And that's why DG went after her to say, hey, if I can get rid of somebody who's a threat, then I'm going to go about it this particular way. I'm going to use my resources and I'm going to make sure that this person is out of the way. And that's exactly what happened. So I want to see what happened to Captain Pettis was an example of Craig, Blackwell, people that are in positions that will go against the status quo. And we need to champion Captain Pettis at this point to see that she's the next black assistant chief ever in the city of Cincinnati.
And
So,
let me say two last things and then I'm gonna jump. Yes, sir, Kevin. I'm sorry.
okay, well, no, I was just gonna say to your point about processes, and I think because Adonica had a question. She was like, "All I know is the taxpayers keep paying off these lawsuits."
I was gonna address that to Adonica. There
Let
is
me
a
get my
pot of
point out
money.
there. Let me get
Yes,
my point
sir.
out, and then I'm gonna let you
Yes, sir.
speak. And I think that that process is a big part of that, and that there needs to be a deeper look at and a deeper scrutinization of the processes that the city lead or that the city uses. I hear what you're saying. DG is getting a process that Blackwell didn't. That's too bad for Blackwell, but it's great that we got processes in place now that force you to have to follow certain procedures in order to be able to take action against folks. If you got the right procedures in place, that's good for everybody, whether you're black, white, man, or woman. It should go across the board. The same way with how we vet candidates, choose candidates. We got to take a look at these processes that the city is employing across the board in every department, because we get to these lawsuits either because processes are not in place or processes are not being followed. This is why I was making the statement about the performance evaluation. I don't give a hooey if officers, commands, staff, execs don't want it in their jacket. Daggone it, that should be a process and a procedure that everybody gets an evaluation every year. I don't care whether I don't particularly like getting evaluated every year myself in my job, but that's a part of making sure that people stay on track and performance. And it's unreal to me that is not a policy and a procedure that the city has where that is mandated, where performance of, I don't care who you are. Iris, you just got done saying that if you get taxpayer dollars, that there's nobody that should be above scrutiny. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And that means being scrutinized through performance evaluations that can then be made available for public scrutiny to look at and see exactly how you're doing. But when you don't have these kind of policies and procedures in place, then when you go to take action against somebody, you ain't got your ducks in a row because you ain't followed procedure, and a good lawyer will pick you apart and take you to the cleaners. And we see this happening time and time again in city government. And so my question is when is somebody over there at City Hall going to do a comprehensive look at here are our policies and procedures, and here's how we're doing everything from the hiring to the firing to the performance evaluations. Where are all and then holding people's feet to the fire, just as we're saying the charter protects the police chief and she's entitled to these things. Good. I'm all about that due process. And at the end of the day, they're going to arrive where they're going to arrive, and which is probably getting rid of her, and she's going to go to court and sue. And if the city has followed their procedures and did their things, they should have a strong case, a strong defense. My sense is that they don't have a very strong case, even though now that they want to get rid of her, they're trying to follow the charter. I'm just like, I don't know. So I'm with you. I think procedures and process is great, but it just don't seem like we got a ton of it.
That's not the way I perceive it. I perceive it differently, but I'm sure they've got procedures and policies. I'm sure they do reviews. I mean, these are professionals, but you got the human element. And for me, lawsuits.
You just heard they don't. See, Nathan, this is what angers me sometimes about you. It's like you always willing. Well, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that they got all it. Clearly, they don't.
I know that I'm wrong, but let me get it all out first.
Okay.
So, just in my opinion, they've got policies and procedures. We're talking about the city. They got policies and procedures. I'm sure these professionals review their policies and procedures. And as it relates to lawsuits, you're dealing with a human element. Lawsuits are part of the game. That's part of the game. You can have there is no ironclad policy and procedure that's going to prevent a lawsuit because you got the human element, and that's unpredictable. And that's just part of the game. Cities get sued all the time. I'm not saying I like it as a taxpayer, but that's a part of governance.
But it's not about getting sued. It's about getting sued successfully. It's about getting sued successfully
and make payouts all the time.
And
that's the reason why they have insurance to deal with these kind of things. And that's a part of the game of dealing with humans and employment and jobs in face of the media. I mean, this is all part of it.
Let me tell you something. One of the reasons, and the brother put it up there, Thiji never got a review in 7 years, when she was in chief the whole time, and that was by design, because they knew if she got the proper review, it would have been mass documentation years ago. But the city manager did not want to get egg on her face because she clearly said, this is my choice. I'm making this decision. I'm a Black sister that has to get it right. She said that in a roll call at District 2 in front of several witnesses, along with Scotty Johnson. And so despite information given, this is one of the reasons, because they did a climate assessment back then. Now, that's the deep part about it. You spent all this money, but there was a climate assessment back then. Why didn't you reveal it? Because it would have shown overwhelmingly why the department did not want these. See, and that's why this whole thing, like I said, is messy. It's a disgrace, right. And the taxpayers are suffering from it with multi-million-dollar payouts. And it's until we really do something about it and have a voice in the game, this is what's going to happen. And just a brother made a comment about Chief Craig that he didn't get run out of town. He wanted to go to Detroit. Let me clear this up. It was his long dream to be chief of Detroit. Okay, it was a long dream. However, he was getting a lot of pressure to get out of town from Cincinnati. They did not support him the way he should have got the support. And when everything came open for him, he said, Deuce, I'm out, because you're not going to force me to do the political nonsense and be pressured under this foolishness of these acts that you want to do. And so, of course, he took the best move out, and God bless him. He succeeded from it.
Hey, Dre, let me ask you this. So you just said what you said about the city manager, and she got to get this right, and she did all this protecting and blocking for Thigi from your view. If that's true, then whose decision is this to get rid of her? Because I can't imagine that she would feel any differently now than she felt then when she said that at the roll call. Because again, this still makes her look bad. In my mind, this makes her look bad because this is your person. This is your person, the person you chose, the person that you backed, and now you tricking up after a couple of bad months, and saying she's no longer qualified for the job. It don't look good. It does look like a hatchet job and a scapegoat, which makes me wonder, do you think this is her decision or is it the mayor's decision?
I wholeheartedly believe it's the mayor's decision. He put pressure on the city manager. And this is, if you remember earlier why I said, why was there never a vote of no confidence on the city manager? I want you to think about that. There was a vote of no confidence on the mayor, but there was never a vote of no confidence against the city manager. So that should tell you the amount of power that the city manager also.
There was, he said it was voted down on the floor.
Well, that's why I said I was there when it happened. So it never really reached the floor. And that's the point, because they realized if we vote no confidence on Cheryl Long, then it puts Thigi in the whole bag.
Can I ask a question to that, though? Do you think that because policing is more than just the chief, you got a whole contract to negotiate? You think somebody might have said, yo, dude, we got to come up for negotiations and things that we might want to have as police officers that are bigger issues than just Thigi? You think that could have been part of the conversation? That would have been part of mine.
I know for a fact it was part of the conversation. That's why they didn't. That's why it didn't hit the floor, because they said the city manager. This is a bid for the financial situation for the police department. So yeah, they want some money. So you're not gonna go against the hand that has a lot of power to give you a high raise or a low raise. So politics. Guess what? That's why politics. I said this whole thing stinks across the board on how this process goes.
I'm gonna say it again. This is the politics of humans, employment, job. This goes on every job, everywhere. This is the only difference is that because of their job is magnified and it impacts, and we see it in the news. But this is human interaction. Period.
It is human. It is, and this is part of the process.
It's human interaction, but there's legit human interaction, and then there's dirty politics. I mean, I have no way of knowing I have no way of knowing whether this is true or not. I have my doubts that this, I get that they keep saying this is Cheryl Long's decision and it's in her hands. But I have long felt like this was not her move. This was the mayor's move. And it was interesting that, up until it got hot, the mayor was always talking about, yeah, I got confidence. And then you remember, because I remember because the media was asking him these questions directly. And then when it got real hot, he went quiet. He went from, I support the chief, I'm with the chief, to I ain't saying nothing about the chief. And now I'm not sure about the chief. I mean, and this is in a matter of weeks. This is within a matter of weeks. When the political pressure for what was going on downtown got turned up, he switched up. And so that makes me wonder, like, how much, I'm not saying that she didn't have any say or any way in, but I'm wondering how much of this was precipitated by the politics, more so than her Cheryl actually having a problem with her performance.
So this is what I want to say to Adonica, because I'm scared of Adonica. That's my sister out here on the struggle in education. There are pots of money that are set aside to settle lawsuits. Anything over that's in the pots of money, and I've learned this through the 25 years of watching police, because I've often said, why do we have to pay for bad policing, especially when they got fired and then arbitration will let them back in. Now in 2020, CBUF and other Black organizations, we were able to change the arbitration process of the FOP contract. Just giving out some facts and history, right? Why is it that we got to pay these people? One, is easier to settle than it is to prove that you're right or wrong. Two, the pot of money is set aside, and if it goes over that pot of money, then council has to vote on it. So it's more than just, it's all of that, right? But we should know, we as the citizens, because when Adonica said we're paying, yeah, we are paying, but they put the money in a pot. Every year, money gets put in the pot, because the city settles suits all the time. It is the city's manager job to hire and fire. I think most of us don't understand their job or his job or whomever may have it. But this is the job. And it's not like she's got to get it right. It is that she needs to follow the processes. And that's what we should be looking at. Are the processes being followed? Now, whether she gets it wrong, that will bode on her career as she moves around and does whatever she wants to. If she wants to stay city manager, I'm quite sure inside of that game, they give you multiple times to have fired somebody. Now, remember, she done fired a fire chief and a police chief, black and white. So I'm looking at the processes, and when the processes were said from federal court that she did not do right for the hey, how you doing? That she did not do right. Sorry, y'all.
We just okay. She's back.
Sorry, y'all. But I wanted to address that. And I also wanted to address is that when the calls are made for citizens to step up, because I often come on here and I say, y'all, who's going to help us be at these tables to help make decisions for a community? Who is going to do that? This is why I come here and I say that. This is our 25th year of being intimately involved. This is why Brother Dre keeps saying Iris Rowley can make something happen. I can't, Dre. Stop it. And that
when you gonna call me? Nathan's been trying to hook us up for years to collaborate.
You know why? You know why I work. You know who my boss is.
I feel obligated to speak for Phil since he's not here, Iris. But since you're getting that bag from
Don't
the
do
city,
that. You're gonna make me throw up.
You calling all the shots down there at 801 plus. I just had to get that. I had to get that out for my man Phil, because he would have definitely said that. He would have said that when Brother Dre said that. He would have brought that up. So we got to get that.
Well, he almost croaked when he said I made $100,000. I mean, I don't even understand what the problem is. As many consultants the city has, is like everybody want to focus on Iris, and I think that the work speaks for itself, and the consulting speaks for itself. Keeping these provisions alive and well, and in the front of everybody's faces, especially police brass and the city's administration, that the collaborative is critical in all parts and parcel. When Interim Chief Henny just presented at the budget meeting, you know what the fifth goal was? Measurable goal? Measuring up to the collaborative agreement. So we lament, but we are more than one trick ponies. We got multiple issues. And I know somebody was trying to say that it ain't just one issue. It's multiple issues on how we live, what's going to be paid for, how we're going to be invested into. That's why I mentioned the school apparatus. It's not just the board, it's the unions too. It's the teachers, the principals. It's all of those things. It's not just a thing. It's multiple things. But Brother Dre, I'm going to call you. I see you doing your thing out here, though, and I appreciate everything that you're doing.
Hey, I like I said, we really on the same page, and that's why me and you the sister that I love to just go to war with sometime.
I'm a win. I'm going to win. Black women win all the time.
Like I told people, the Cincinnati's worst nightmare is if we sat at the table and presented some information that I have an eye here, you have an eye there, and see exactly how we can move together. Because there's a lot of people doing good work, but there's competition versus collaboration. Mm-hmm. And I'm all for the collaboration to save these babies out here.
Brother Dre, I remember a time when we had to beg the Sentinels to come into the negotiation room of the collaborative agreement. I've been around a long time, right? And so they were not willing to do that in fear of their jobs. But we've seen some evolution. And had it not been for President Johnson, who we talked about as we were talking about Blackwell, giving us one of our first reports, the federal lawsuit would have not made it into federal court. So we can't throw everybody out all the time. David Singleton is one of my friends. one of my dearest friends, and he always says, we just are not about throwing people out. Now, some people, especially some that be in the chat and be coming on here, need to be thrown away. But most people should not be. And if we all sat down and we all thought about what we wanted, what are our goals? What do we want? So if I may, Nathan and Kevin, we're going to have 3 community meetings leading up to July. This is our 25th year of the collaborative agreement. The work has spoken for itself. You see it in the current administration of the police brass. You see it in the city administration. And I would love for us to start challenging people who do run for city office and say that they support the collaborative. Ask them how and what about it. Be more specific about what people are saying. I do agree with you, Dre. It's much more than that. And I said for me, with DG, her knowledge around the collaborative and exception, and not just what we said, what we wrote, but what we said too, was phenomenal. And it outranked most of the outside people. They don't study that document enough. So when you interview, you need to be able to answer the questions of the class. And so I have questions. But when we say, come to these community meetings, let your voice be heard leading up to the actual conference and the reflection of how we got here, please show up. These goals, these outcomes, whatever we want to see should go for the next 25, 30, 50 years. But we have to have fair, accountable, effective, transparent policing for everybody in the city of Cincinnati, just not for certain segments.
Correct.
Hey, Iris, let me just say thank you again for that information and for everything you do, and for those who are critical of what you get from the city. I'll just simply say this:
it's not enough.
The city spent $50,000 on a 9-page investigative report. And people want to talk about what that money that you get, and they want to act like it's $5 million. We just spent $50,000.
The recommendation to give $8 million to the symphony.
For 9 pages. We ain't got a problem with the law firm that did that. They got paid. They got their little money. I mean, I know probably in the grand scheme of their business, $50,000 is not it's not a ton of money for a big law firm, or even a medium size.
But Kevin, did we want the police to do the investigation? Who do we want?
No, I'm not criticizing who's doing the investigation. I'm just saying, people got something to say about what you do. I'm saying the quantity and the value of work that you bring is significantly more than 9 pages that we paid $50,000 for. So if people want to look at it comparatively, right, in terms of people who want to be critical of how much you're getting and what you're getting, the value of what the city gets out of it, in my opinion, is infinitely greater than what they just spent money on for this investigative report that in all likelihood is not going to be enough of a defense to keep us from paying out more money in a lawsuit to the police chief. So I just wanted to put that into perspective when people start talking about dollars and who getting what and what's going where and the value of what you're getting for the city dollar. I don't think that there's any question.
When is that meeting? What is the meeting for our listeners, the direct date and time?
Sure. So the first meeting will be April 14th. We were just waiting for a new prospect to get back to us. They will be every second Tuesday of the month until July. The first one will be about public safety. So when I posted that on Facebook and got over 150 responses, we are going to put them all together and see where they fit. If it's not being worked on today, please don't come tell me what to do. Please come in the door talking about what you're willing to do. We're going to put them all together and let people build out their ideas, begin to talk about what will be reported out at the conference, if it makes sense to the community, what they would like to see, and then move on. And again, this is about building communities, efforts, it's works. And if you just got 2 or 3 months, you want to be part of something. Say you want to be part of the Citizens Complaint Authority, of which we do every month. And that'll be our next Freedom Friday. To Sister Girl who just asked me when next Freedom Friday, because we do that after every board meeting. We go over the cases and we talk to them. We'd love to have you. We need, I think, another person on the board of the Citizens Complaint Authority. If anybody is listening and wants to be on that board, to
It's
help
not
them look
anybody
at.
listening. You talking to Brother Dre right now. I need to be on that board with how internal affairs turns over those reports. And I've always said, if internal affairs can do somebody wrong like Captain Pettis, and I've seen it for years, even in my documentation and forms that I've sent through, what are they doing and how are they treating our citizens of Cincinnati?
You know,
So,
tell us what they do. You know, you was,
hey, but that's why I say you need that eye on the board. So let's get it done.
come on, all you got to do is apply through the mayor's office. They make all the appointments. We
I hear you.
second them. The community gets to second them. I mean, we all talk. So when I say we, I will say that this is one of the better administrations for the Cincinnati Black United Front and the Collaborative Foundation. We have talked more, we've argued more, we participated more, we've had a lot to say about designing of what things look like. So that's the reason that I get on here to say to you guys, the collaborative agreement gives us the access to the decision makers, and it also gives you the access to have your voice heard, especially on policing. But we need to talk about more than just policing. We need not to be scared to talk about our education system, our housing system, health, and food. All right, guys. I
All right.
appreciate you.
Thank
All right,
you.
Iris,
Appreciate
thank
you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Listen, everybody, I really appreciate you. Went a little over, but there's people here in the audience with us. Still got 50 people strong, so I appreciate it. We're still a growing show. Let me give you a heads up. We've got approximately 2 weeks left. That's 4 shows in season 2 before we take a several-week hiatus before season 3. Doing something different with the Hot Mic Cincy podcast. We take that time to recharge, reassess, and then come back even stronger. So tap in with us for the next couple of weeks before we take our break. Tell people about the show. Tap in, share it. It means everything. Brother Dre, thanks for your time today. Appreciate you. Michelle Dunn, thank you so much. Black Lion, no. Black Russia, appreciate you stopping in. Sister Iris, appreciate you as well. Always Kevin Aldridge, the voice of reason. And have a great Friday. We'll be back on Tuesday and Friday of next week at 1:15 p.m. approximately. But you can always join the pre-show. Generally started about, I don't know, maybe 1:01, 1:02, 1 p.m. every single day. You can just see us as we come in and get ready to start the main show. So again, we got 2 weeks left in season 2 before we take a break. Tap in with us in our live streams before season 3 starts. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Happy Friday to everybody. Happy Good Friday. And we'll talk with you real soon. Oh, shout out to Phil Heimlich. Can't forget him. Sexy Phil, appreciate you today as well. He's doing his podcast right now. And we'll catch up with you soon. Take it easy.
Peace.